K-Man's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Morning, Sandy.
Morning.
Hello.
Good morning, Blake and Aaron.
There we are.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's mail day.
What does that mean?
It means that we're going to be reading our mail.
You actually get mail?
Like, email.
Okay.
I see.
And other correspondence. Not physical, not like snail mail.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
News headlines today.
What you
CMR
got?
launches mail day. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You should put like a little E down there where it says mail. It should be like a small E.
like email.
Like email with Sandy. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah. Jamaica is the first country to make digital currency legal tender. Wow. That's a
Really?
big step. So they are, a cash-heavy economy. So their central bank has officially recognized the JAM-DEX as a central bank digital currency. So it's JAM-DEX. Legal tender, becoming the first country to do so in the entire world. According to the Bank of Jamaica, Governor Richard Biles, the JAM-DEX, which has been in pilot testing since last year, will officially launch for domestic use later this month. So interesting.
Okay, so it's not like Bitcoin; it's just their own NFT.
I guess digital currencies, digital currency.
Cryptocurrency. Yeah.
I was watching Jeopardy last night, and they had a whole category about Jepcoin. Jeopardy launching their own Bitcoin.
Oh, really?
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah, cryptocurrency. Is that wild? I'm sure.
I think a lot of people.
I'm sure they're the first game show to launch their own cryptocurrency, Jepcoin.
I mean, I'm not going on that if I get paid in Jepcoin.
No,
I want cold hard cash for them.
Hard cash
or Bitcoin. I take Bitcoin or cold hard cash. That's the only thing I accept.
Yeah. I totally feel you there. All right. The governor has said that he wants tougher laws when it comes to DUI. This really is in alignment with what I've heard government members also saying, because he says that I think the standards on the road are
IG.
No, that's not Gianna.
Oh.
I think the standards on the he says I think the standards on the road are atrocious, and I've seen it myself. A big problem is drink driving, as the English say, but everybody else calls it drunk driving.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't know if you guys saw this video that we posted early in the week with these two women in a car driving with open bottles, drinking and driving, and they put it on TikTok. They recorded it and put it on TikTok. So clearly people in this country see no issue with drinking and driving, quite literally. So
wow.
I see no issue with just driving terribly in general.
Yeah, that's bad enough, but you add, alcohol to the mixture.
Yeah.
It's far worse. So, a number of fatalities have been linked to DUI, but I think it's not even just the fatalities, it's the overall number of accidents. So, he said he's looking forward to the government putting tougher legislation in place. And I think they're looking at tougher penalties as well as actually reducing the limit.
Yeah. What's the limit right now?
That's a good question for somebody who doesn't even drink. I don't know.
I want to say it's like 0.10.
I think so.
I'd have to.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, I think they're looking at cutting that in half, actually.
Yeah.
All right. So habitual sexual predator, Ronnie Rodney Ebanks, 53 years old. He has been sentenced on Wednesday to 2 years imprisonment. Remember, this was the guy that the parent was running off of the beach back in January. It kind of went viral. Yeah. So he ended up pleading guilty. Now he's off to jail for 2 years. So yes, kind of crazy. All right. There was a bit of a story trending this week about the Ritz-Carlton and an incident that happened there over the weekend. We had a parent reach out to us as it relates to life. The first issue was lifeguards potentially not being on scene by the water park. And then the second issue was whoever was there didn't seem to know CPR. And so a little boy got in some trouble after he had an allergic reaction to something, had really started to drown in the water because he, he was unconscious sort of thing. And another parent had to perform CPR, and that parent contacted the mother of another child, witnessed the whole thing, and then her baby father was the one who performed the CPR on the child, and he was really, really traumatized, and he reached out to us sharing some sentiments in terms of what the experience was like. He said, listen, I'm CPR certified, but it's not something that I ever really want to use if I can help it, especially on a child. And so he really wondered why, there was no support in the environment, in terms of anybody else knowing CPR that actually worked at the Ritz, and no one was in a position to assist medically.
Well, did they ask for assistance?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah, they said they asked for assistance because it was some sort of an anaphylactic response. They were asking for Benadryl, anything else that could have, because that was the primary issue. So they were asking for anything that could bring that under control. And unfortunately, that wasn't available. And then nobody else knew CPR either, apparently.
But was it something that the child needed to have like an EpiPen on standby anyway?
Yeah, that's kind of, that would be up to
it sounds like maybe. I don't think the child has ever had a reaction like this. And so it was one of those things where he does have allergies to, I think they said banana and cheese or something. So he must have gotten a hold of something that day that he shouldn't have.
I mean, there's banana and cheese everywhere.
That would be something that I would think that the parents would have to be prepared for. It's.
I mean, we have a mutual friend, and that their son is allergic to everything, and so she's, they're both on it all the time because you have to be.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. Every time my kids would try a new food or something as they were obviously growing up, I was always quite scared. I remember I gave my kids peanut butter in the pediatrician's office because I was so scared that they'd be allergic.
We've gone to the Ritz Water Park lots of times. So they've got a guy that typically is up on top of the slide area, kind of manning the slides for the little kids.
Okay.
I don't know if that person should be required to know CPR or not. It's kind of like, when you go to a hotel, there aren't lifeguards at the pool. There aren't lifeguards at the beach.
No.
So it's not.
It is one of those questions that has come up over the years because we are a very water-based country, and
you go to any hotel, there's no lifeguard. It's just part of you take your own risks.
It's your
responsibility, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you would think people would know CPR around the place, but I mean,
well, I would say that maybe there should be that should be, but if it's not a requirement, sometimes people just don't. But again, other hotels, they aren't like that either, where they know CPR. So it's just a good conversation to have about what people can.
It's like having an AED, at the hotel and available should someone have a cardiac issue.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. It's good practice.
Now, I'll say this because this happened last weekend when we stayed at the Kimpton. Literally saw this unfold. We were at their new water park, and they have nobody watching the slides or watching the kids play at the Kimpton. And maybe that's something they're figuring out. But there's also an area kind of behind the
Sandy's gonna miss Bobo.
The new water park.
Oh my gosh!
Sorry, I have to finish my thought.
Gotta go.
But the kid ended up running over to his parents, crying. He had blood streaming down his face, and he must have knocked a tooth out or something. And then they called for support or emergency, and it took about 3 minutes for them to get over there. But a guy came with gloves on and a little emergency pack, and
that's good.
Whatever. So they did respond. They just weren't right there.
But you always can't be just right there.
Whatever. So they did. They did
all
respond.
right.
They just all right, Sandy. Well, have a great weekend.
All right.
Whatever. So they did respond.
I'm getting some feedback this morning.
Well, have a great weekend.
All right.
Whatever. So they did respond.
I'm getting some feedback this morning.
Well, have a great weekend.
All right. I think we got in trouble with the radio station this morning.
Well, have a great weekend.
All right. I think we got in trouble with the radio station this morning.
Well, have a great weekend.
All right. I think we hold on one morning. Good morning, everyone. Just got a little bit of an issue here. Give me one quick second. Hold on one morning. Good morning, everyone. Just got a little bit of an issue here. Give me one quick second. Hold on one morning. Good morning, everyone. Just got a little bit of an issue here. Give me one quick second. Hold on one morning. Good morning, everyone. Just got a little bit of an issue here. Give me one quick second. Hold on one morning. Good morning, everyone. Just got a little bit of an issue here. So it actually said echo. All right, let me just log out and try to log back in. Yes, okay, that's better. Did I accidentally hit the echo button? I'm not sure. Bizarre. Good morning, everyone.
Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, fever grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
All right, good morning, Cayman. Welcome to our Friday edition. I can't believe it's Friday already. I hope that you guys are doing well. We do have our mail day today. So basically on Fridays, we're going to spend some time going through the mailbag, like the literal mailbag. So we get messages from all over the place. As Blake said, it's not obviously necessarily snail mail, because if you send me snail mail, I'll get it next year, because I literally check my mailbox once a year. So if you want me to receive something important, don't put it in the post, because I'll never get it. So I go in and pay my annual fee. All right, folks, be warned. But yes, we get stuff via email. We get stuff on Messenger. We get stuff on WhatsApp. And these are all just, a culmination of those messages, some really, really interesting ones that we have lined up for you today. Some things we'll just throw out there by way of discussion, because we don't actually have the answers. And then other things we will, we've reached out to the government sources to try to get the answers for you. So let's go ahead and check in with our news for the morning. Good morning. Happy Friday.
Hello and welcome to CMR Daily Buzz. I'm Misha Allinger and thank you for joining us. A 53-year-old West Bay serial sexual predator, Ronnie Rodney Ebanks, was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment on 8th June. Ebanks was originally arrested after a video went viral of a parent chasing him away from the scene of the incident, where he was observed publicly performing an indecent act. He eventually pleaded guilty earlier in the year to the indecent act and criminal trespassing. Governor of the Cayman Islands, His Excellency Martin Roper, acknowledging that Cayman has a serious issue with drunk driving, is looking forward to the government passing a bill that will strengthen the laws. RCIPS has also admitted that alcohol has been a contributing factor to the official number of fatal motor vehicle accidents that have occurred in the last 12 months. The revelation comes after the elected government has been contemplating increasing the penalties for DUIs and reducing the legal limit by half. Following a complaint by an anonymous member of the public to CMR alleging a fuel quality issue at the Barcam Esso gas station, Ofreg launched an investigation. The series of tests revealed acceptable fuel quality standards and no contamination was observed. Ofreg said it is committed to protecting consumers in the utility areas it regulates, including regular monitoring and inspection of fuels in Cayman. Members of the public can submit formal complaints to Ofreg by email at complaints@ofreg.ky or by calling 345-946-4282. Ofreg will join CMR's The Cold Hard Truth on 10th June with host Sandy Hill to discuss more. Stay tuned. The Ministry of Agriculture has started to roll out a national livestock identification and tracking system as part of its efforts to modernize the agricultural sector. The aim is to enhance animal identification and disease surveillance, assist with the procurement and supply of feed and other resources based on livestock population data, and also to monitor genetic and breed variation within the Cayman Islands. Farmers interested in having their animals tagged can contact the Department of Agriculture via telephone at 947-3090. The service is free and requires no advance scheduling. World Health Organization representative Mr. Ian Stein visited the Cayman Islands last week to re-engage partnerships affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and bolster public health initiatives. Visiting and local health professionals also discussed a still-in-development quit line that will provide 24/7 support to persons who have decided to give up tobacco consumption. The quit line is expected to launch at the end of 2022. For more information, please contact Public Health Promotions Coordinator Ms. Therese Prehay at therese.prehay@hsa.ky. BAF Insurance is advising public of its early office closure to facilitate a staff training on Friday, 10th June at 2:45 p.m. Regular business hours will resume Monday, June 13th at 8:30 a.m. Let's hear from Kevin Watler for updates on Cayman's weather.
Hello Cayman, I'm Kevin Watler and this is your CMR weather update. Is brought to you by WG Charters. Sunrise at 5:46. Today is partly cloudy. The day heats up to the mid-80s. Winds east-northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Sunset at 7:03. No changes for tonight. Partly cloudy skies with light east-northeast winds, and the temperatures fall to the upper 70s. High tides at 5:37 a.m. and 12:34 p.m. Low tides at 12:37 a.m. and 12:34 p.m. Looking forward, similar weather conditions are expected. Be sure to stay hydrated, especially if you spend a lot of time outdoors during the day. CMR weather updates are brought to you by WG Charters. They offer private boat trips for a great price, so we encourage you to support them. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Kevin, for those updates. In regional news, Olympic medalist Sherika Jackson runs a brilliant race in a meeting record time of 21.91 seconds to win the 200 meters at the Diamond League, ahead of the Olympic champion Elaine Thompson-Herah, who finished second at 22.25 seconds. Making international news is a 300-year-old gold ring that was found in a farmer's field in Shropshire. The skull-engraved ring, discovered in 2020 in the Alberbury area, England, was declared treasure at Shrewsbury Coroner's Court on 7th June. A reward yet to be decided will be split between the metal detectorist and the landowner. The metal detectorist was granted use of the field by the owner and discovered the treasure on 13 December 2020. CMR is inviting businesses to sponsor our Hurricane Special Edition with host Kevin Watler. Reach out to CMR's sales team today to find out more and secure your spot to promote your business on CMR platforms. For more in-depth news and headlines, please visit our website, caymanmallroad.com. Tune in to The Cold Hard Truth with Sandy Hill, Monday to Friday at 7:30 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Radio Bobo 89.1 FM. Thank you for tuning in to CMR Daily Buzz. I'm Misha Allinger. Please do not drink and drive, and stay safe.
All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. It's a beautiful Friday morning. Happy Friday. Everybody loves a Friday because y'all feel like, well, it's that much closer to the weekend. For some of us, it doesn't make a difference what day of the week it is. We're at it every single day. But why not celebrate Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday? It's just a good day to be alive as far as I'm concerned. So good morning to everyone. Hope you guys are having a fabulous day so far. Let's go ahead and say good morning to whoever is logged on to our live stream. We've got Miss Vernita. She says, blessed good morning. Good morning, Miss Vernita. Marshall is joining us. He's probably still on vacation. He's been taking a little bit of vacay. By the way, summer is quickly approaching. It is June. When do schools officially get out? I feel like a lot of them are coming up now towards the end of the month. And a lot of you are planning family trips and vacations. So Do let me know what you're up to, where you're going. Olivia, good morning to you, my dear. How are you? Melita's got it locked. Maria, good morning to Maria. Hello. Oh, Maria. Yes, how are you? It's a different Maria. Jose, good morning to Jose. Thank you so much. Diamond Princess is here. We've got James who's watching in Canada. What's the weather like in Canada, James? What part of Canada are you in? Hero Blair's here. Good morning. Jonathan joining us. He says, good morning to you all, Cayman family from St. Martin in the Caribbean. Big shout out to all the folks there in St. Martin. Jasara has it locked. Good morning, Jasara. Catherine is watching, and Miss Rita is here saying, Buenos dias, feliz viernes. So that means happy Friday for those of you who've forgotten all of your Spanish. I've forgotten a lot, but there's still a little bit that I remember. So feliz viernes means happy Friday. So good morning to one and good morning to all. We do have a guest who's going to be joining us from government this morning, talking about an upcoming event that they want the public to know about. And, you know, this is fantastic. There's lots to do in this community. I really hate when people complain that there's nothing to do here, because believe it or not, for a relatively small island, we do have lots going on. And so they're going to be joining us here shortly to share exactly what they have on the agenda. I see someone is WhatsApping me this morning. So they said Triple C's last day of school is the 22nd at noon. So a lot of schools are now coming up to that time of the year where the kids will be out for summer. So we do have mailbag questions lined up for you this morning. So what this is listen, we get a lot of correspondence. Let's just put it that way. All the time, people are always messaging us, various methods, WhatsApp, email, the works. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we just spent a day or part of the program at least going through some of these messages so that you can get a feel for what's on people's minds. So a lot of it is that. And also, you know, we can discuss it really. So let's see here. So we do have, I went through a lot of them last night. I've kind of put them together in a single document because sometimes it's like so many messages that you've kind of got to just pull them from different sources. So we have those ready. It's about 4 pages worth of mail that has come into us. So we'll go through, some of the comments are a bit longer, some are shorter, and we'll go through all of that. So big things going on in the Cayman Islands. As you guys know, Parliament has restarted on Wednesday. Yes, today is Friday. So lots going on. Lots going on in Parliament. And one of the remits of this program, as far as I'm concerned, is keeping y'all updated. I went to the bank yesterday and someone said, you know, Sandy, I was listening to the program a couple of days ago and you were talking about, I guess that probably would have been Wednesday's program, in fact. And you were talking about how people just don't keep up with what's happening. And so they made reference to the Beach Bay project, the Mandarin Oriental. And they said, you know, this is something that was approved years ago and I've been following it and I know about it. You know, why is it that others don't know? And I said, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point, that people have to really keep on top of things and make sure that you are concerned with what is happening in your community. And, you know, that's also part of what we're doing here. We're trying to keep you guys up to date as much as possible. So let me just see if we can, good morning to Wee Wee and Miss Cynthia. Omeria says, I'm here, Sandy. TGIF, pleasant good morning to everyone. Thank you so much, Omeria. So good to see you. So let's go ahead and maybe start with a few questions. Now we've got guests coming in about 15 minutes. One point of clarification, in the news segment, it made mention of the fact that Offreg was actually joining the show this morning. Unfortunately, they had to reschedule. So they were supposed to come on and then there was some sort of a scheduling conflict and they're not able to come on again. I see some person that we need to block in the chat. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Yes. So sometimes we get these annoying people. For the most part on YouTube, hardly ever happens on Facebook anymore. But we get these annoying people on YouTube, and they start posting all sorts of nastiness and ridiculousness, trying to defraud people or sell, I don't know, sell sex. I don't know what they're selling really with those comments. But we have the ability to block them from our chat application as part of the show, the programming. So we will do that. We will block you. Good morning. You've been blocked. Not today, Bobo. Not in the Cayman Islands. Take it somewhere else. So let me actually also say that I'm going to play a little PSA here this morning. It is in relation to essentially Facebook making some changes. So I'm fingers crossed that next week we might be able to have a conversation about the changing face of media and media trends, particularly here in the Cayman Islands. We're hoping to have an expert on the program who is going to be in a position to talk about some data and what the data means. And this is data that was pulled from the Tower Marketing Report. How much should we put into this if you're in the world of marketing, or if you're a company trying to decide where to spend your advertising dollar? Is this the sort of report that you want to be looking at in order to make your decisions? And so we'll have an expert tell us the importance of surveys and how surveys are done and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll have some industry players here in the Cayman Islands talking about the world of media, how things have shifted, where are things going, what can you expect in the future, and that sort of thing. So maybe next week or the week after, because we're actually trying to confirm some guests. So I will definitely get back to you guys in relation to that. And so one of the big things that has happened recently, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but Facebook has been going through quite a few changes. So they have changed a lot in terms of Facebook pages. And we have noticed the changes, and it impacts us in one particular way. So listen to this, because this is really important. We are so super excited for our 5th anniversary to be coming up the end of this month. And of course, as we continue to grow and expand, there's so many things in the world that is assisting us in reaching our audience and really getting our message out there. One of the most amazing platforms is obviously Facebook, which, as you guys know, we have dominated since inception, since we started. The very first story that we put up on our CMR platform was June the 29th of 2017. And it's amazing. The platform and Facebook has changed over the years. We have seen, different versions of it. And now there's a very, very big change that has occurred over the last couple of days in terms of business pages, which Cayman Mall Road is a business page. So the same Meta company owns Facebook and Instagram. So there are some changes that will apply to both. But the changes on Facebook pages is really, really quite different. And so from the perspective as an administrator of the Cayman Mall Road page, we have other administrators. It means a lot on the back end has changed as well. One of the major changes that they have implemented is they've gotten rid of page likes, which is something that we've talked about for a really long time. And we knew that it was in the works, and Facebook has been talking about it, or now Meta has been talking about it for years. And so it is interesting to see that it has finally come to fruition for everyone, because I think they were kind of rolling it out over a period of time. So we had over 18,000 plus people who liked our page, and those have all now disappeared. So we need your help because although we have almost 70,000 page followers, that's still almost 20,000 people that now would not be getting notifications about our posts and stuff in our pages. So if you previously liked the page, now some people did both. Some people liked it and followed it, and some people only liked it. And it was really confusing because no one understood what the difference was between a page like and a page follow. Well, now, just like Instagram, they're only followers, which I think simplifies everybody's life, to be quite honest. So if you previously liked your page, I'm encouraging you to go now and ensure that you're actually following the page, because this is something that would really assist you in getting all of the notifications to ensure that you're still keeping up with when we post something on our social media platform, particularly on Facebook. So it's wonderful because you'll get notified when we go live streaming, all the shows, all the posts. And as you guys know, we post quite a bit throughout the day to keep you informed about what's happening in the news of world, not just in the world of news, not just here in the Cayman Islands, but regionally and around the entire world. We're the only news platform that covers everything from birthday greetings, death announcements, lost items from dogs and wallets and money, straight through to all of your entertainment news. We pretty much have you covered, a full 360 breadth of news. So go to the page, hit that follow button, make sure that you're getting all of your notifications, and continue to stay tuned to Cayman Mall Road. Thank you so much for making us Cayman's #1 news outlet to get all of your latest breaking news information, weather, and regular updates. All right, folks. So there you have it. That was a pre-recorded message that we posted yesterday on our platforms, just to get the word out there that there have been some changes as it relates to Facebook pages, etc. And I've got some just messaging someone here. Okay, so right. So it's just a change. Like I said, in that, a lot of people were confused over the years about, what the difference was even. It just wasn't clear to people what a page like was and what a page follow was on Facebook. And they had them very, very separated. And over the years, there was a sort of rethinking that it didn't really make any sense. So like Instagram, for example, only has page followers. There is no such thing as a page like. So there were some differences, but the average person on the street, if you said, what's the difference between a page follow and a page like, they didn't get it. And it made sense. And I kept saying it for years, like, why do they have both? And so eventually what they did was they actually removed page likes, and now they only have followers. So very, very similar, again, to Instagram in that regard. So, we had over 18,000. So basically, if you liked the page previously, just go back, because I've noticed that some of those people, because you had the option, you could do both. You could like and follow a page. So like was, basically a person who chosen to attach their name to a page as a fan, and a follower was someone who was just receiving updates, that things come up on the news feed. And really, it was subject to Facebook's algorithm on how you receive those notifications. So bit strange, but now they've done away with it. So the confusion is far less. But in January of last year, quite interestingly enough, Facebook actually announced that they would be discontinuing the like option in favor of just the follow button. And it kind of rolled out over time. So there were some businesses, I think a lot of times Facebook rolls out stuff in the US before the rest of the world gets it. And so that didn't come to us until just this week. So just making sure that everyone is on top of that. Okay. So just make sure you're following the page, because then that's how you get all your notifications. And there are things that we post on social media, to be clear, that we do not post anywhere else. It's not in the website. Like, it's not necessarily a news story in the sense that we can't write a whole post and a whole story about it, but it is still worth a discussion. Sometimes we do this, for example, with some of the celebrity or foreign news. We'll do a screenshot, we'll do a photo, and we'll do a couple little brief paragraphs on social media alone that'll say, hey, this is what's going on. So good morning to Mr. Denniston Tibbet. So good to see you this morning. TGIF indeed. Miss Beulah has also got it locked. KK says, as a default, you don't get any notifications. So there is a way, and maybe one day we'll spend a little bit of time having a little tech Thursday moment, where we can go through and show you how to like pages, follow pages now, and how you can actually adjust the notifications that you get, because there is a default that Facebook will only send you so many notifications, but there's a certain number of pages that you follow where you can say, listen, I want to get every single notification from this page. And you can actually set that in your settings. Good morning to the beautiful Daisy. So good to see you. So we do have a guest joining us this morning. Miss Ventisha is joining us. Let me get the ministerial name. Oh gosh, these ministerial names are so long. Can I tell you? It's the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture, and Heritage. She's going to be joining us this morning to tell us a little bit about an upcoming event that they have. And they want everyone to come out to this event to participate. And I think it's a good thing. So let's go ahead and welcome her to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you?
You're doing great over here. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well.
Wonderful. Happy Friday.
Yes. Happy short week.
Yes. It came very, very quickly because, of course, Monday was a public holiday. So Ventisha Connolly is let me get your official title here. She's the Events and FOI and Data Protection Manager with the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture, and Heritage. And she's here to tell us about this wonderful event that is coming up. So give us the goods. What's going on?
Okay. So the ministry is starting to put out a lot of events that we want to, invite the families, come out, enjoy our culture, our heritage, our youth. And one of them we've tied to the Queen's Jubilee. Mm-hmm. So a few weeks ago, probably about 6 weeks ago, we announced the song and jingle competition for the Queen's Jubilee. And we invited folks in the Cayman Islands to create a jingle that was, about 45 seconds long, or a song, which could be up to 3 minutes long. And we had a tremendous amount of uptake from it and some wonderful pieces that were submitted for that competition. Mm-hmm. So this first event that we're having called Saturdays in the Park is the finale of that. So the top 5 in each category will perform their piece live on stage at the Dart Park in the amphitheater. And then we will announce the winners. Mm-hmm. Also, during that time, we just hosted with YSU, and that's the Youth Services Unit, we just hosted the National Youth Poetry Competition. So those the top 3 finalists from that competition will also join us at the Dart Park and give their read their poetry also.
Wow.
And then nice. To cap things off, CNCF, the Cultural Foundation, which falls under the ministry, also did the National Playwright Competition as a part of the Queen's Jubilee remit. And so we are actually going to present the winner of that with the Ina Watler Queen's Jubilee National Playwright Award.
Beautiful. So it's Saturdays in the Park. First of many?
Yes. We intend to move this event not just to the Dart Park in South Sound, but to the park in Bodden Town, to the park in East End, to the park in West Bay, to the park over on the Sister Islands. It's going to be a quarterly event, and there'll be something happening. We're looking forward right now I'm looking forward to our Christmas one, in which we're planning to invite churches, their choirs, to have a sing-off. So it's going to be a moving parts event. But this first one is going to be the kickoff. And I'm really, really hoping that your listening audience will come and join us. It's all free. Mm-hmm. Though we will have a mini marketplace with our craft and food vendors, selling their handmade, homemade things. The events are always going to be free that we offer to the public. And we're looking at each time to stepping the game up for each one.
So folks, this is Saturdays in the Park, kicking off this Saturday, which is tomorrow, from 4:30 p.m. until 7 p.m. at the Dart Park in South Sound. Performances by the song and jingle competition winners. So we don't know who the winners are yet.
No. I
Okay.
actually don't know who the winners are yet.
Wow, this will be a nice reveal moment. Performances by finalists for the poetry competition, presentation of the Ina Watler Queen's Jubilee National Playwright Award, and a mini market with craft and food vendors who will be on location. So I love events like this because it's really a wonderful opportunity, folks, for us as Caymanians, non-Caymanians, everybody who reside here in the Cayman Islands to get together and partake in a little bit of culture and fellowship and enjoy some fun activities. So, our park spaces, we keep talking about, we need more green spaces. And people who say that often don't get out and actually use those green spaces. They are there for more than decoration, folks. They're there for you to use and enjoy. And community events, I think, outdoor community events are a fantastic way to just, fellowship with people and get some fresh air and see what's going out. So grab the kids, grab your husband or wives, your girlfriend, your boyfriends, or just a friend, and coming out to this wonderful event that the ministry has organized and has put on. So I like this. It sounds like a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing all the faces come out and enjoy with us. We'll have nice little cushions for the amphitheater because we know it's, a little hard concrete. So there'll be cushions to be nice and comfortable while people sit and enjoy the music and the poetry.
Awesome. Sounds good. So local artisans are going to be selling handmade crafts and snacks. For me, that's always a fun part of these events. It's a free event, folks, so there's no cost associated with attending. Probably just walk with some water because sometimes it gets a little hot out there. But come on out and enjoy this wonderful event. Miss Ventisha, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
All right. So you'll send us, I will post this up on our social media platforms as well. And you'll keep us abreast of any upcoming other
Saturdays
in the park.
Okay. I will keep you abreast of those. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right, folks. So again, Saturday in the park, the first one is happening this Saturday. So make sure that you come out. It's a fantastic event, including the song and jingle competition winners, performances by finalists in the poetry competition. We've got the presentation of the Ina Watler Queen's Jubilee National Playwright Award and a mini marketplace with craft and food vendors. So listen, if you're craft and food vendors and maybe you missed this because you didn't know, prepare yourself for next time because you should be there 4:30 to 7 p.m. People love to see arts and crafts and they love to have opportunities to come out and, make their artistry, their artisans, everything, crafts available. So they're going to be at some of the nearby cabanas. All right. This sounds fantastic, folks. Let's go out and celebrate a little bit of Cayman culture and heritage tomorrow evening. Okay. Sounds good. Beautiful. Who else is here with me? Felicia, good morning. Good morning, Miss Nancy. Nathina is checking in. It's mail time. I feel like we need a mail jingle to introduce this segment. So again, this is where we're going to pull out our mail. Now, I am aware that the Minister, Sabrina Turner, is actually going to call into the program to answer one of our mail questions. But I think she's getting ready because they're still in Parliament today. So they were there until after 10 o'clock last night. Good. I love to see our MPs working. They got to earn their keep, folks. So good to see that. And we will bring you up to speed on some of the things that's happening in the Legislative Assembly, because I should say that, in fact, there is quite a bit that is going on. All right, so let me see if I can print off my mail questions really quick. Let's have a quick word from the HSA.
At the HSA, we know that your time is a precious resource and want to help you spend it wisely. Avoid the wait and request your prescription refills through our website, WhatsApp, or by calling the pharmacy. Use our delivery service if you are vulnerable, elderly, or a civil servant, or pick them up the next day. Your secure health records are at your fingertips with our My HSA Patient Portal and Healthy Life app. Our 9 locations throughout all 3 islands make receiving quality care simple and convenient because your time matters to us.
All right, folks, as we go through our mail questions, got them all printed out here, like I said, because sometimes it's hard to remember all where they're at. Make sure that you feel free to call in at any time. 936-2626 is the telephone number. And like I said, we're expecting a call from Minister Sabrina Turner this morning. She just wanted to clarify something on one of the questions that we received. So as soon as she is ready, we will pull her into the studio. All right, first one up. Like I said, I've got 4 questions, so bear with us today. Hopefully we'll get through all of these for today's segment. First one up says, "Hi, Sandy. Nice to see you yesterday." And this was, when they said yesterday, this was a Wednesday question, and they saw me at the event live streaming from the Beach Bay Oriental Beach Bay Development Project. It's a mouthful. All right. So this person says, "Hi, Sandy. Nice to see you yesterday. From my U.S. perspective," they are an American, "I was impressed with the meeting yesterday, not with the entitled idiots." Ooh, wow. Okay. "But the rest of the people honestly seemed to be there to talk things out and were listening. I was truly impressed with Chris Saunders and his responses. I'm not sure of anywhere else in the world that you're going to have multiple high-level government officials, the developer, the architects, Heber Arch, etc., have an open dialogue with the public about a project of this magnitude. The arguments were crazy at times, especially when people were complaining about not having access to trails on private land. This is usually considered trespassing, and they should be thankful for all the years it was available. Unfortunately, there are only 2 options with business and nations. You're either growing or declining, and it is basically impossible to stay status quo for any length of time. The residents were complaining about the overdevelopment of 7 Mile Beach and traffic heading into town. Well, this seems to help with both of these, and also adds much needed jobs where people do not have to travel so far. The duty revenue from hotels is very important to all of us. It is why these people get to enjoy the amazing tax levels of Cayman. Let's all be thankful people still want to develop big projects here. I view hotels as a much better investment for the island over places like Vela, where it is just a one-time stamp duty. This really is an amazing country, and the accomplishments of a country with so few people should make all Caymanians proud. Also, the generalization with Caymanians not wanting to work is unfair. It is truly more of a generational issue at the moment everywhere in the world. This is the same exact complaint from my friends in the US and my family in Europe. The younger generation is not motivated the same as previous generations. There are some amazing statistics on this subject. Work, family, and income used to be the main priorities for people. Now it's something like free time and friends. I will see if I can find the data. All right, well, send it through to us. So there's quite a bit in this first mail that has been received by CMR. So first of all, thank you to the person who submitted it. And yes, there's a lot to digest in here. So I guess we can have a little crack at some of it. This idea, the first bit about, it's unusual to have a developer and different aspects of the project actually participate in such a public meeting. I think that is important because I do feel that sometimes people in this community forget that these are actually private properties, and they are also private projects. So yes, they do have an impact on the community, and I think anyone who's sensible will want to ensure that they engage with the public at some level. But the truth of the matter is, they don't really have to. I mean, let's just be quite honest here. The person made the point that there seemed to be a lot of people there who were entitled, talking about accessing private property, and if we can continue to access private property. I think that sometimes in Cayman, we're doing certain things and we are accessing private property and we don't even know it. Here's another example of that. A lot of the DART properties, DART owns a lot on this island, in case you missed that memo. And sometimes you're accessing his private property and you don't even know it. Perfect example was Eastern Campus. I mentioned this earlier in the week. All of the ones up by Rum Point, people go, just because it's not developed and he hasn't done anything with it yet, that's not government property and that's not public property. Those are private property spaces that people are utilizing. And in some cases, not just utilizing, but abusing as well. And so, when you see him put out the garbage, him being the DART organization, put out the garbage bins and the porta potties and so forth, it's because they're trying to encourage people to use their private properties, as well as they can. Good morning. Hello. Oh, let's unmute you. Hi.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to make a point about what you're discussing regarding private property.
Yes.
I agree with what the person has said, but the person needs to be aware that we have a law regarding, called the prescription law, that allows, if something has been in use for, I can't remember exact time right now, for whatever reason it slips me, but you acquire prescription rights. That's what the debate is about regarding the beach access. And the public wants the government to respect the law and recognize those access rights. I know it's contentious, but if the government doesn't want the contention to exist, then abolish the law or respect the law. But it can't just have a law in the books and then ignore it, because that sends the wrong message.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Danny, give me 1 quick second. The minister is really a bit cramped for time this morning, so she is going to call in. Let me just see, did you call straight line or in WhatsApp? You're in straight line, so I'm just going to ask you to hold as she calls in, because I do want to return. I think you're making a very important point here, and I do want to return to that. So we are waiting on Minister Turner to join us. She just has and let me read her question. That's her now. So good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you?
I'm good. So hold on 1 second. Let me find the question as it relates to, we're going through a mailbag question. So, so someone sent in a question. Actually, we had multiple people send in questions about testing. So someone said, let me just see where I put this in my little mailbag here. So someone basically said that they understood, that they had heard this, that there was testing. They said, "Dear Sandy, just heard this yesterday. I don't know if you know, that cruise ship passengers that come into the island do not have to take an LFT test." So that was the first time I heard that yesterday. And then I had someone else on Facebook tag me in a comment, because someone was asking about what was required to go to the US in terms of vaccination. And if they only had one vaccine, if they could get into the US. Of course, you know that that's not going to happen, right? So the US has their set of rules. And then someone tagged me, this was in the women's group, and they said, why are we having to like test and do all this stuff when the cruise shippers are coming in and they're not testing? So there seems to be some information out in the public domain about people who come in via cruise ships not testing. You're the Minister of Health and Wellness. What can you tell us about this?
Okay. I think a lot more education in regards to the regulations that govern the arrival of cruise ship passengers, and a distinction between air and cruise needs to be done. I know that my colleague, the Honorable Minister for Tourism and Transport, said it, but again, constant reinforcement is key. When we began to consider the reintroduction of cruise tourism, a number of stakeholder meetings were had where Ministry of Health and Wellness, being represented by the Chief Officer and the CMO, especially Public Health, were involved, along with the Ministry of Tourism and their senior staff. And one of the things that was presented to Cabinet for us to agree with the plan is that the Minister of Tourism went out to town with his team and they had something like a rating system. Now, these were in the early days where the various cruise lines, we bat really hard, and the minister bat even harder, that Cayman, upon introduction of cruise, was their first port of call. Now, we know at the beginning, it was only one that stepped up to the plate for us to get back to see how we would handle it, stepped up to the plate, and that one line said, hey, we're going to give you first port of call. But we know long-term, logistically, it couldn't work. And at the time, the policies and the engagements, the protocols that were in place for while persons were on the cruise ships, that only vaccinated passengers and all of their crew and staff had to be fully vaccinated, met the requirements that would have satisfied us to start introduction of cruise tourism. Now, we also asked that they would do testing before disembarkation, but being first protocol, the cruise line saying, look, you can't cruise unless you're fully vaccinated. That met a requirement if we were first protocol, so your risk level would not have been an issue. Where we got into other cruise lines now asking, saying, well, hey, what if we stop at Jamaica first? What if we do Cozumel? What if we're in a route back? Will you entertain us? That's where it got a little tricky. More discussions went in. CMO went, sat at the table and said, well, show me what your protocols are for all of these passengers whilst they're on your cruise ship. Well, we knew they satisfied us that all passengers would have been fully vaccinated. And we have a port health officer that is out there, and they have to report back should anybody get sick on the cruise ship, and they're not allowed to disembark once they showed flu-like symptoms. But this buy-in that every passenger coming off a cruise ship had to do a certified LFT before disembarkation into Grand Cayman was not accepted, or wasn't actually not accepted. They were reluctant to introduce it because of the processing time, and it got into, well, who would be responsible for it? Would it be the Cayman Islands? Would it be the cruise lines? So with all the other protocols, knowing the reporting mechanisms of any illness, be it COVID or any type of illness, it could have been, let's say, food poisoning. That has to be reported, and you have to satisfy the port health officer who's in constant contact with the head of public health and CMO. We were satisfied. Now, once those cruise ship passengers come off of that tender and land on this soil, the public health protocols does not go away for them. As they have to adhere to the same public health protocols that applies to us as residents and air travel. So this concept that cruise ship passengers were handled totally differently once they got off the ship is incorrect. We're here, we're living, we know that mask mandates for indoor activities is still in the current regulation. It's the same thing that is required of the cruise passengers when they go into our stores and restaurants, even if they're only here for 3 or 4 hours. And that has been a fight. I know since the complaints that we have gotten from a lot of the business establishments along the waterfront, that they have complained that the passengers do not want to wear their masks. A lot of them are very rude to the staff. I know that the Ministry of Tourism and Transport communicated back to the various cruise lines and say, look, once your passengers, please educate them, please do some printed material. These are the current local public health protocols that they must adhere to once they're on shore. And I've noticed that some of the complaints have diminished. However, people will be people. You will have some who adhere, you will have some that respect it, and then you'll have those who are saying, well, I'm not going to spend my money in your store because I don't want to wear my mask. So that's what this government is grappling with. But I think that the whole concept that cruise ship passengers were treated totally differently from the residents, that we were being held hostage and they got a free pass. A little bit more of education, maybe at this granular level, could have been done. And I'm hoping that my explanation in this shortened time helps that, demystify that. Now, we know moving forward, we're living with it. We're getting to the point where if the cruise ship industry now is saying, look, we're living with COVID, our passenger will be a mix of people. I have to engage more with the ministry to see if anything has changed. But as it is today, Anyone disembarking those ships has to adhere to all local public health protocols as it is.
Okay, so we have someone who's listening. They say that what is happening is cruise ship passengers are not wearing masks, and when they're told to, they throw a hissy fit, even though all stores still have up signage with the mandate. So, just a question. I don't know if you know this or not, because this is more related to on the tourism and the port side. But do we have loudspeakers at the port? You know, when they're waiting to be processed by CBC or whoever they disembark, whatever that procedure is. There's an opportunity there of at least a couple minutes where we could be doing repetitive messages over a loudspeaker, say, welcome to the Cayman Islands, you know, one of the safest jurisdictions in the world, and we want to keep it that way. Please wear your mask. Masks are mandatory in public spaces where you can't adhere to, you know, the 6 feet, indoors, as well as, you know, everyone has been PCR tested or something. Like, I feel like there could be more that could be done by way of announcements to the passengers, even as they disembark, and have free disposable masks available for them in case maybe they left theirs on the ship or they forgot it or whatever. Where people could hand it out.
Some of the stores actually along waterfront are given the mask, but a lot of the persons who are just saying, I'm over mask, I don't wear it in the United States, I don't wear it from where I'm coming from, I just don't want it. Who are you? I'm hurting you by not coming into your store, and you're blocking me just because of a mask. That's their attitude. It's collective. As an elected government, as your Minister of Health, Wellness and Home Affairs, we have to do the right thing. Currently, the regulations are in place. We still have the mandate. We're revising that. And hopefully we will have a new set of regulations at the end of June. But to be honest with you, the government alone has made the regulations. We alone can't fight this. We need the cooperation of the business partners as well to uphold our laws. And you have it in the palm of your hand. It is a public health regulation that indoors you must wear your mask. So until that falls away, these are tourists, these are visitors to our shore for a few hours. I must say that a number of the reports I've gotten back from the business establishment along the waterfront that engage with the cruise passengers most are saying, for the most part, you do have those who say, yes, I got the letter under my door letting us know what the protocols are for the Cayman Islands. But you will have those that are just, you know, they're against it. It's just how the world is, unfortunately. But we all have a responsibility as business owners, as locals. If the protocols, public health protocol says this is what you have to do, even when you're in a tour bus, it's up to that tour bus operator to be an example setter. Wear your mask properly. Put your signage there before they enter their bus. These are the public health protocols. Please respect our country. You know, until this is removed or whatever, they have a part to play. We all are ambassadors with holding up our public health protocols until we get to the next phase where, let's say, it's recommended. However, we will continue to be guided by the science. But as it is right now, and of course, the data that we're now coming out from the Ministry of Health reporting the communicable and non-communicable disease is much clearer. So you can see what's happening, but we all have a part to play if we're going to get through this together.
Thank you so much, Minister. Really appreciate you jumping in the program. One quick question. Do we have any updates on that one case, that one chickenpox case that was being tested for monkeypox? Anything on that as yet?
I haven't gotten any further updates as yet. I know that the samples that were taken and sent off to CARFA, we're still waiting for it because even though we do genomic sequencing here, we don't have the necessary kits that will actually allow us at this moment, but it's in short order, to do the testing to find out for monkeypox. But again, that's one of the good things. We have the skill sets in our public health, Mr. Smiley and his team. We just need the correct testing apparatus in order for us to help ourselves. But as soon as we do get confirmation as to what that was, the samples that were sent off, the public will be informed.
Okay. All right.
Right now, we have a responsibility to just continue to do the non-public health protocols, sanitize your hands, and you know, if you're in really dense areas and crowds and all that sort of stuff and you're uncomfortable, put on your mask. Once you're indoors, it's still mandatory.
Yes. And for monkeypox, not that we have any cases yet, but chickenpox seems to be in the community. Close physical and physical contact, is important. So don't go around touching people.
We all have a right to just be responsible, and we all
Yes.
got to do this together. So
All right.
thank you so much, and I hope
Appreciate
that that your guest has been informed. Thank you again. Have a good day.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. And the minister's off to Parliament this morning. So again, the government is, they started in Parliament on Wednesday. So that continues. So we appreciate the minister taking time out of her busy schedule. Mr. Denny Warren is still on hold. Junior. Good morning, Senor Denny Warren Jr.
Buenos dias.
So you were speaking about this concept of prescriptive rights in relation to our first question or comment really that came in, where someone said, that people seem to have an entitlement to private property because, I guess maybe they've been using it for a while. Do you know off the top of your head, Denny, what the prescriptive laws are here in the Cayman Islands?
If I'm remembering correctly, I think it's like you have to have like continuous use for like 20 years. I think it is something like that.
Yes, that sounds about right. So there is something called the Prescription Law 1997, which was brought about by the Prescription Amendment Law 2017. And really, it provided a statutory remedy to end a conflict over property access. A lot of times, beachfront property that people have been accessing for a particular period of time. So this is a 2007 Section 9 of the Prescription Law edition. And really what it did was, number one, it formed a dedicated government department with responsibility for ensuring access to public beaches, which would be where people can make an application to the Grand Court to resolve a dispute regarding public beach access, and permitting an application to be made to have a dispute settled regarding access to a public beach. I believe the prescriptive right is 20 years. I'm just having a quick perusal to just confirm. So, Denny, your position is in relation to our first mailbag question is yes, that is true up to a point. But the law says, here we go. It says when any beach has been used by the public and any road, track, or pathway passing over any land adjoining or adjacent to such beach has been used by the public without interruption for 20 years, the public shall have the absolute and indefeasible right to use such beach.
Say that word again.
Hold on.
No, it's not that you said it wrong. It's just that it's a very important word.
Yeah, indefeasible right to use such beach, land, road, track, or pathway, unless it appears that the same was enjoyed by some consent or agreement expressly made or given for that purpose by deed or writing.
Right. So unless they had if the owner said, yeah, you can access my land, I allow you to do that, right? Then you don't acquire a prescriptive right, because anytime he withdraw that consent, you can't cross his property anymore. But in the absence of such an agreement, a right exists.
And I mean, because it's the public, who would have, this kind of is a very interesting, even subsection of this, because how would a landowner have gone about giving you access? I suppose by signage. So I think the DART landowners are pretty smart about this, because they do have signage up that it's owned by them. And, as long as it's undeveloped, they welcome responsible use of the properties, as they do during the Easter camping, and people should not mistake that for a prescriptive right.
That's right. And you see, like, you walk into a supermarket and it says, well, shirt and sandals are required, or shoes are required. That's you're making a contractual agreement with the store that you're going to enter on that basis. If you don't want to agree to those conditions, then you don't enter the store. Yeah. Okay. But those rights do exist.
Right. All right.
And I think the government has been dragging its feet dealing with this, and I think it's a shame, because it's either you respect the law or you do away with the law.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have the government disregarding the law, but then at the same time arresting and putting in prison people for disregarding law.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. That doesn't work.
Right. Okay. Thank you so
All
much.
right,
Appreciate
take
it. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I did see Mr. George also calling into the program. Mr. George, feel free to call back. So that's our first mailbag question. So interesting point there about developers, prescriptive rights and so on. The other point of interest that I thought, well, the person said that the arguments are crazy at times. Right. So yeah, this person thought it was a good thing to have MPs there. And, you know, I also thought it was good. I did make an observation, and this is just me making an observation, that the only MPs that were there were part of the PAC government. So, you know, nobody else showed up. So the opposition certainly didn't show up. But we had ministers Chris Saunders, Minister J.E. Banks. We had parliamentary secretaries Heather Bodden and Dwayne John Seymour. So those were the four that I saw. I did not see anybody else from the PAC government, and I certainly did not see anyone from the opposition. So some other interesting points is about growth. And I think the person makes a point here. I mean, you only have two ways to go in terms of countries and what happens. You either maintain the status quo. The person says it's impossible to stay the status quo for any length of time. So you're either growing or you're declining. Now, in relation to that, and Mr. George, feel free to call back. My apologies that, the lines are busy when you called just now. But in relation to that, I do think that it is interesting that you say that you make the point about growth, because even now the economy is starting to contract, right? We're heading for a recession. And what that means, folks, is that I see more of these annoying people on Facebook today and YouTube streaming. What that means, folks, is that, at the end of the day, we will feel the pinch of that. And of course, it is interesting because no one wants a recession, right? Everybody is like, oh, we have to continue to grow in order for you to continue to be able to pay your bills even. Inflation is up. So in order to counter inflation, one of the things you want is the economy to continue to grow as well, jobs to become available, for you to be able to make money. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the way that we think is a little bit counterintuitive to what is actually happening in the real world. So here's an example. We don't want growth. This is what some people say. We don't want growth. We want to maintain the status quo. We like it exactly how it is. But the cost of living is going up. Inflation is not something that we can control. I love when people say the government must do something about inflation. What do you expect the government to do? This is a worldwide situation. What exactly do you want the government to do? I'm trying to find an article that someone shared with me. I can't remember if it was in The Economist or where it was, but it was a very, very interesting article about not only are we going to be concerned about inflation here in a second, but there's something else called, I'm trying to remember what the actual economic term was for it. Morning, Denny. Just trying to find this article about, I know I read it. Sorry, Denny. Sorry, go ahead.
I say you're hitting all the buttons this morning.
Yes, do tell.
The government can do something about inflation, but not completely. There's inflation that's imported. The problem that we have is, first of all, we had the unfortunate situation of the virus shutting down economies. That caused the scarcity.
One second for me, Denny. George keeps calling, so let me just pull in George for one quick second, because I think his comment might be a little bit more condensed and shorter. Just 1 second for me. Good morning, Senor George. How are you?
Good morning, How are you, Miss Sandy?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Good,
What's on your mind? I put Denny on hold for you this morning because I figured your point might have been a little bit quicker.
Senior citizens.
Yeah, senior citizen privileges. Yes.
Senior citizens. Yes. I saw some comments on your chat.
Oh, that's those annoying YouTube spammers, right? We blocked them. Don't worry, they've been blocked, and they keep coming. They keep coming this morning. So I don't know what's going on, but we keep blocking them as they pop up.
Anyhow, no problem. The lady that was on there just now talking about the Jubilee. I don't know, because I don't know if anyone else has the problem of calling some of these government places, because you can't get through to them. It's always, I mean, I've been calling certain government places 9 o'clock in the morning and it's an answering machine on. I don't know why. That, I mean, I volunteer to work free just to answer the phone for people, because it's annoying sometimes. People don't have, amount of credit on their phone, and they're telling you, well, no one is available now, but we'll get back. And nobody gets back. I did something for the Queen's Jubilee. I did a poem. I delivered it at the class, the government building myself. And up until now, I didn't get a reply saying, we received your, what you sent in, or nothing. And I'm hearing the lady saying now that they contacted people and whatnot, even if it wasn't acceptable enough. I think it would be nice for whichever office. I think it was the protocols office. I'm not 100% sure. I called around, and I think it was the protocols office, to just call out and say, well, we received your whatever. Thank
so this
you.
this was for the song jingle submission?
It was a poem.
For the poem. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then point, and nothing. I heard nothing at all until now. She's talking about it, and it's not only that. Like I said, the government buildings, people are sitting there by the phone, but they just won't answer the phone 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but I have a big issue with that. Most of the government places, there's nobody that you can talk to now. It's only answering machine. So that's just my piece for today.
Okay.
All right. We don't want that alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, my dear. Thanks too. All right. So I'm not quite sure what information I have in relation to that, but hopefully some people are listening to the program this morning who can reach out to him. I think it's just common courtesy, and it's so nice when you submit something that people respond. I mean, I don't know how hard it is in this day and age to simply respond to an email. Mind you, these are government entities that have staff available to them. Sometimes I might not respond to you because it's just like me checking emails, but when it's government and sort of businesses that you apply to jobs and other things to, you do expect some sort of a response. So just courtesy. It's just business courtesy. If you apply for competition, even having an automated message sometimes is useful to say that, if you don't hear from us by such and such a date, that means that you did not make a finalist and you were not successful with your poem submissions or whatever. So that then people know what the rules are, instead of thinking, well, did they ever even receive my poem? Sometimes, take for example, in yesterday's program, there was this whole thing where Miss Marie was saying that they're having some issues with the emails into the food bank, and so if you apply during that process, you might not get a response. And Woody was like, "What? I didn't know about this. This is clearly something that we need to fix." Yeah. When people send you and they apply, you create an avenue for them to apply for something. That avenue should be monitored and should be responded to. All right, Sir Denny.
Yeah.
You haven't officially been knighted, but I'll call you Sir Denny anyway.
I'm saying that when the world got locked down, you had a reduction in manufacturing goods, and services were impacted as well because people had to quarantine. That got compounded for more directly for us when the U.S. started handing out what is it? How much $1 trillion it was they gave away in relation to help people in the lockdown, right? And so what happened is that money, all of that money, then started to say, well, I need to buy what goods are available. And then obviously the people who are producing those goods are thinking, well, am I going to have enough to keep me going? And they start raising prices. And the money keeps coming, and so the prices keep going up. And the problem is that we import that inflation. But what the part that we can do something about is not overspend. So we have to be careful not to do the same thing, as in give away too much money and spend too much money, because that has to be paid for. If the government is borrowing money to give away, like what was it, 250 million, I think it was, they initially got from the bank when the lockdown began. I can't remember the numbers right off now, but that has to be repaid, and that's going to show up as inflation. So you're not going to see it right at this moment. This is something that we're going to feel over time. What we're feeling right now are decisions that were made way back. What we're going to feel in the future depends on how much damage was done when those commitments were made to borrow money. Will the interest rates change going forward? Remember, for the past 30 years, the interest rates in the US has been going down. Now they're on the way up, and it's going to get painful. So don't hang your hat too high. We're going to feel it.
That is good advice, I think, for both consumers and the government, because individual consumers have an obligation to tighten their belt when we are heading into a recession, or when things are happening around the world, when inflation is at a all-time 4-decade, high rates. And I feel like, when I read comments on social media and I see the way the average person thinks, they do not appreciate their role in any of this. They think it's all up to the government. The government must fix everything. The government must fix the cost of living. They must make everything affordable for me. They don't understand how they have a responsibility themselves, as you say, cut back on spending, holding off on certain purchases. There's a lot that we as individuals could be doing as well.
You know what else CMR could do? CMR could advocate that we put financial literacy in the education system.
Well, I'm advocating for all kind of literacy. And cultural, financial, everything. Family planning is also important, because listen, trying to survive in this world financially with one child or two children versus 5, 6, and 10 children, it's a world of difference. So even having this conversation with women about why you need to have 5 children, or men, let me be very, very clear.
Doing that in the absence of the context of economics doesn't.
No, for sure. I've tried to break it down more ways than one, but even our young men who are going out there populating, some of them at the age of 25 and 30 already have 8, 9, and 10 children, and they're going to be fertile probably into their 80s, and there seems to be nothing that is stopping some of them from continuing to populate. And they have this attitude that, oh, I'm a Caymanian, we need more Caymanians. Yeah, but we need Caymanians who can actually afford to survive. They're not going to be a burden on the government or on the community.
Well, actually, that point right there is something the government can do something about, because the policies of the government will dictate whether the rules are skewed in favor of people who come here for investment purposes, or those who live and work here and will move up the ladder and so forth. But it all begins with properly preparing people to be functional in society so that they could take advantage of those opportunities when they come. So it doesn't make sense that whenever your economy is expanding, that get taken up by people who are not from here, so that there's no room for those who are remaining.
Right.
Those,
And of course the real balance has to be that in this economy that we've created, where we rely mostly at least 50% on foreign labor for the industries that are here and for the businesses that are here, it's a problem. Because even if every single Caymanian was employed and there was zero unemployment, we still have to import labor into this country. And so there is that as a consideration. But let me have our listeners listen to this. I found the article that I was just mentioning that I had read a couple days ago. A big shout out to the person who shared it. So it says that the World Bank says that most countries are headed for a recession and warns of a possible return to the 1970s. I think this is called stagflation, which I've never heard of in my life. But of course, I was born in the 70s. So there's so much that is happening with the world economy that I think when you're a certain age and you don't have that level of, I'm not an economist, I'm not an expert in this area. When I hear stuff like this, I'm like, what? I've never heard this before, but it was before my time. But there's cycles, even in economic processes. There are cycles, there's recessions, there are depressions. Nobody wants to see the depression of, what was that, the 1940s ever return. But let's have a listen to this. Denny, stand by 1 second. Oh, did I hit the, there we go. Oh, here I was thinking that this was actually going to be an audio that our radio listeners can listen to, because I'm very, very cognizant. Hold on 1 second, of the fact that they aren't able to read because they're listening. But let me tell you what stagflation is, because I don't even know what the hell stagflation is. This is new for me. All right, here, let's listen to another one here.
Investors are bracing for sharp changes in financial markets. After nearly 3 decades of calm, inflation has exploded in advanced economies around the world. As a result, it might be harder to find a job soon. Forecasters think global growth is going to stall.
American households are pretty unhappy, and when the households are unhappy, they tend to spend a little less.
We've had that yield curve inversion. That's something that we're looking at, but I wouldn't say that recession's on the horizon for the next 6-12 months or so.
The top financial authorities in the U.S. hope this all blows over quickly. They're making lending more expensive to control inflation before it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
But the only tool that the Fed really has to bring inflation down is to let interest rates rise to whatever level it takes to cause a recession, which then breaks the back of inflation.
Investors believe the central bank will lift interest rates to 2.5% or higher in 2022.
This is what you have to do, slow down the economy in order to take that steam out of the system, the steam of inflation, which eventually can burn you really badly.
The big risk is a repeat of one of the worst chapters in American history.
Escalating prices.
The 1970s were a really hard time. Now we're in a new mistake where inflation has lasted longer and looks like it could risk being around for longer than they had hoped.
Can the Fed engineer its soft landing, or will stagflation return to the U.S.? Stagflation describes the dual threat of stagnant economic growth and persistent inflation. It can happen when a central bank tightens its economy in an attempt to keep prices in check, but an unexpected shock keeps those prices marching upward. Inflation hit 8.5% in March 2022. That's the fastest monthly change since 1981.
And if you ask anybody, rich or poor, they're going to say, yeah, I'm definitely seeing it in my food costs. I'm definitely seeing it when I'm putting gas in my car.
Americans haven't seen anything like stagflation since the 1970s. Central bankers call this era the Great Inflation.
That was a decade of persistent economic mismanagement. For years and years, the Federal Reserve attempted not very hard to control inflation and in the end persuaded itself that it couldn't control inflation. Meanwhile, fiscal policy was stepping pretty hard on the gas pedal, and that kicked off a round of the economy persistently being overheated.
As this financial crisis unfolded, funding for public services dried up. Cities like New York fell into disrepair, and labor unions went on strike across the country. The financial problems went mainstream as gasoline prices ramped up.
Would have to line up at the gas station on alternate days, depending on what your license plate number was, and you could get gas. And that really led to a significant inflationary spiral.
Richard Fisher led the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas from 2005 to 2015.
Now, the chairman of the Federal Reserve then was a man named Arthur Burns. Before Arthur Burns, they just looked at all the data. And then he stripped out one or two variables: gasoline, which is variable in price, that is fuel and energy, and then food. But by the end, he was stripping out almost everything. And he turned out, brilliant economist that he was, to probably be the most disgraced Federal Reserve chairman in history.
1973 dramatized U.S. dependence on foreign oil.
He was also struck by some exceedingly bad luck in the form of the two oil price shocks that were delivered by OPEC.
The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries imposed its boycott and within a year raised prices more than 300%.
That, of course, sent shockwaves through the U.S. economy in the form of higher gasoline prices.
So you had rising inflation at the same time that you had the unemployment rate going up, which was stagflation. It was against a backdrop of a lot of policy mistakes, already inflationary environment. Inflation had tripled in the 1960s during the Vietnam War. Fed also was being forced, and there are memos saying that the changes that they were making would actually, some of those policies would result in double-digit inflation.
The Fed's warning to Washington politicians came true in 1974. That year, prices across all categories rose more than 10%. A new president stepped in with a plea.
We must whip inflation right now.
The president lost his fight, and prices kept rising. Public trust in government was on the decline.
When we try to beat inflation with borrowed money, we just make the problem worse.
President Carter appointed the economist Paul Volcker to lead the Fed and asked him to do whatever it took to rein in prices after a decade of explosive growth.
Mr. Volcker then began to tighten monetary policy and took those interest rates all the way up to about 18%, created a recession, which was the only way to solve the problem of hyperinflation at the time. He became immensely unpopular. There were countless death threats against Mr. Volcker.
The Fed uses its federal funds rate to control the cost of loans. Under Volcker, the federal funds rate shot to nearly 20%. High interest rates discourage investment and job creation.
The 1970s were really the result of a 2-decade-long inflation, the inflation that Paul Volcker broke the back of in a very bloody manner. It was incredibly excruciatingly painful.
And what they have shown central bankers, not only in the United States, but around the globe ever since, is that central bankers can control inflation. And to an important extent, we've been benefiting from the economic dividends associated with low and stable inflation ever since. And all of that is thanks to the leadership of Paul Volcker.
Wages and prices often play leapfrog.
Many things have changed in the US since then. For example, fewer workers have their pay tied to changes in the inflation rate. As a result, wage growth has stagnated for 4 decades in America. Workers at Amazon warehouses, Starbucks cafes, and Apple retail stores are fighting for new benefits. Union membership is down sharply since its heyday. If more workers organize, that could push wages up. Investors also seem to think this inflation is different than the 1970s. That episode absolutely spooked people, enough to send money flying out of bond markets.
When was the last time inflation was actually this high? You're looking at the early 1980s. I think you're pushing almost 13% in the 10-year Treasury versus now, I think we're looking at 2.6, 2.7.
Bond yield data can show how much people expect prices to keep rising. If the yield rate is high, as it was in the 1970s, it means investors won't fork out cash without the promise of a big payday. The Fed can distort these markets for safe debt, and they have for more than a decade, but that era is coming to an end.
would say that over the next several months, you're probably going to see the Federal Reserve stick to their calls and say you might start looking at reducing the balance sheet. And that's also going to have an impact on the bond market, equity market, as well as the consumers and what they're going to feel in their wallets as far as what they're paying for.
Over time, the threat of stagflation faded as advanced economies relied on cheaper labor abroad to produce goods. An entire generation of investors have enjoyed consistent returns as a result. This upcoming chapter could be different.
They need to tighten up on the money supply and tighten up on the stimulus that the Fed gives with these very low interest rates. And I believe they will, and keep this from getting out of hand.
For investors, this is going to be, I think, a bit of a shock, and that's an understatement. Investors don't have any muscle memory of what it's really like for the Fed to actually fight inflation versus preempting or just adjusting rates to be in sync with a stronger economy.
Expectations of future inflation are back on the uptick. This puts the central bank in a tough position. Over the past 2 financial crises, they bought bonds at a scale never before seen. Now they're scaling that stimulus back while hiking interest rates at the same time.
What the worry is that there's a lot of law of unintended consequences that kick in as the Fed starts both raising short-term rates and then amplifying those rate hikes by reducing their holdings of things like treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities. And there is no real roadmap to do this.
Energy prices could be the source of inflation in America for years to come. Russia's war in Ukraine sent gasoline prices up, and that is making other products more expensive.
Well, let's think of a grocery store you go into. It has to be air conditioned. Secondly, a lot of frozen food. That takes energy, and one begins to build on the other.
In the 1970s, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries controlled global supply. OPEC's actions drove gasoline prices sky high in the past. But today, OPEC is a partner to Russia, a major exporter in its own right. The US and its allies want to wean themselves off of this supply.
During the 1970s, the U.S. was a huge net importer of oil.
We saw dramatic growth in the volumes of energy provided by oil and natural gas.
When the world price of oil went up, we were hit badly in 2 ways. Prices of domestic goods, like gasoline, went through the roof. And secondly, it was like we were shipping some of our income to foreign producers. So it was an adverse shock. It caused unemployment to go up. The big shift today is that we produce about as much oil as we consume on average. And so when the world price of oil goes up, as a nation, we don't suffer nearly to the same extent.
Many things remain unsettled when it comes to the future, but one thing is certain.
That clean energy transition is not just coming, it is here.
Researchers say climate regulations will introduce new risks to the market. The financial industry could end up favoring sustainable assets and penalizing polluters, but demand for both products will ebb and flow, taking commodity prices along for the ride. The swings could lead to a boom-bust cycle that regularly affects the finances of households in the States and abroad.
I would say that this next decade might look different. And with that, I would expect more volatility.
So what can regular people do if rocky times are ahead?
If you're between the age of 18 and 25, the unemployment rate in the United States is 2%. It gives workers enormous bargaining power. And this is what's known as a wage price spiral. And we're in the midst of it right now. And the Federal Reserve's job is to quell that pressure by tightening monetary policy, and they're just beginning.
We do have a labor market that is finally allowed some people to stand in the sun and see their wages increase. That said, that sort of ease with which we find jobs is not going to be quite as easy.
This is a difficult period of time, to be sure. Inflation is higher today than it has been for 40 years, but I think there's some reasons for optimism. For one thing, the Federal Reserve has credibility today, which it did not have when Paul Volcker took office. That credibility turns out to be a critically important asset for a central bank because inflation, to an important degree, is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I wouldn't want to be scared, worried about all this uncertainty of what might unfold. I would look at it as an opportunity. Where I find people get caught in trouble the most is trying to live the champagne lifestyle on this beer budget. Make sure that every single dollar is earmarked, whether it's going to an investment account, a checking account, rein it in, build more of that cushion for that rainy day, because that rainy day will be coming.
All right, folks, you heard it. The rainy day is coming. Rein it in. Couldn't get more clear. And that last bit, don't spend, rein it in. Denny?
Well, the problem is that people can't not spend, right?
Well, I mean,
but
yes.
But some of this stuff is self-inflicted on the part of the U.S. I know it sounds great when you're thinking about politics and you're going to come in and you're going to do an executive order and you're going to undo something that Donald Trump did. But executive orders have consequences. And so you could say, well, what they did was good for the purposes of climate change, and therefore that's good. Yes, that's fine, but it has a price tag. And so what Biden did was he undid an order that Trump had done to allow fracking to be done, so that that could be used as a method of extracting oil in America. The consequences that had on the American economy when Trump was in power was that the gas prices went down, because America was then a petroleum exporting country and had the power to influence what world prices were. Right now, America is on its knees going to Venezuela begging for oil.
Well, if you listen to what was said in this explanatory video about stagflation, they were on their knees back in the 70s too. The U.S. has always been dependent on foreign oil.
Well, but this has to do with what your policies are. The point that I'm making is that right now, if Biden wants to undo the executive order that he did when he first came into office, oil prices would go down, and it would put America in a position to be an oil exporting country. In other words, look at it this way: no one is saying that moving to cleaner energy isn't important, but the rate at which they want to achieve this is too aggressive. You're not going to switch the world off of petroleum products to cleaner forms of energy in a day, right? So if you're too aggressive, the consequences is that you drive the price up. And keep in mind that the price of electricity impacts everything that's done in Western economies.
Right.
So when you're saying that you're going to undo that something that Donald Trump did just because you want to promote climate change, that's great. Except if you try to do it too fast, it costs a lot. And that's what we're feeling in terms of fuel. So that's self-inflicted. Now, can Cayman do anything about that? No, because that is a type of inflation that is imported to us because we have to purchase fuel as well. The only thing that we can do outside of that is to move to something that a form of energy that isn't dependent as much on petroleum products. But then again, the solar panels are made from petroleum. And all the plastics are made from petroleum.
All right, so Denny, leave us there.
All I'm saying is it's not as simple to make the switch.
Well, none of this is simple, trust me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
All righty. Trust me, none of this is simple. These are very complex economic issues that are tied into a lot of different things. And that's why even the information that we give you here on the program, folks, we give it to you in snippets, because I've never heard of stagflation in my life. I had no idea what it was. So this is a learning curve. And I know that you need to hear something about 25 times before it even sinks in terms of what it really, really, really is. I think the one takeaway from this is the US certainly has been in this position before. Hopefully there were lessons learned then. But even now, the experts, as you saw in that explanatory video, have been sharing that this time it may be different because there are different factors at play here. The people who have to make the tough decisions, head of the Federal Reserve back then, was a hated man getting death threats because he had to be making tough decisions that in the moment people didn't necessarily understand. But again, his remit was to rein in prices after decades of explosive growth. Everybody loves growth. We think that growth is the way to go. And speaking of development, when things start to contract and we start to see that, wow, things are not growing, it takes a very different turn, and people understand the economic hardships that come with, slowing growth down, or sometimes, not stopping growth entirely, but there are times when you have to really pump the brakes and slow it down. And what does that mean for people? These are some tough questions. And so I don't have the answers. We've brought experts on this show before who are economists and who try to explain these things. And, we do the best that we can in terms of making sure that people are informed. So my apologies to our online viewers. We seem to be getting a lot of spam today on the YouTube channel. We keep trying to block them, but they keep popping up. So we'll continue to block them as they pop up. All right. So good morning, folks. So let's just back up. I know some of this, folks, is really, really deep. And this is why when I often think about when I hear people on social media and they're complaining about the cost of juices and food and steaks and salmon, and then they don't even take the time to understand why those prices have increased. They're blaming local grocery stores. They're blaming the local government. And there is a lot of this. As a society that imports 99.9% of our food, and we do not have local farmers who could supply the entire Cayman Islands with even fresh goods, we're going to be impacted by this. I think people need to have a realistic discussion about how this is all going to happen. Getting food and goods from some regional partners may help. I don't even know it's going to help as much as you guys think, because again, it's all about economies of scale, right? So it's a lot easier for the US, who has, what's their population? Millions of people that they're supplying food for. It's probably much easier for us to piggyback off of their food than, say, a regional country like Jamaica, which has a population of 3 million people. They don't make enough farming to sustain their 3 million people. And once they start to export those goods, of course, what you can buy it for in Jamaica is not going to be the same price that you're going to get it once you're exporting it to the Cayman Islands. Try it. Go ahead, try it. But, I think the people need to have a realistic understanding that it may not work in the way that they think. Good morning, Aliano. Good morning to Emma. She says, loving your top. Have a happy and productive day. Thank you. KK is also loving the colors today on the top. Thanks very much. Good morning to Miss Marjorie. I had, who was that made a comment that we were talking about? Oh, yes. Debbie says, good morning, Sandy. Thanks for the update on Meta. That explains why my Facebook notifications have stopped. Yes. So very, very interesting. Jasara says, that she listened to them last night. Listen to them being, is that the Legislative Assembly or Parliament now? Morning, Miss Nancy. Nathina's here. George, thank you so much. Jesse says, are we supposed to be wearing masks on buses? Yes. And I actually had someone on WhatsApp message to say not only are the tourists not wearing masks on buses, but sometimes the bus drivers, a lot of the tour drivers, are also not wearing their face mask. Really? Apparently, there's one who goes to the turtle farm that says that he's COVID proof. Unbelievable, people. Really. Well, you're COVID proof till you catch COVID. And there are people now who've had COVID multiple times. And I'm telling you that, it's not something you want to catch if you can avoid it. People are dying still from COVID. We have a little bit of COVID fatigue, so we're not talking about it every single day like we were, but people are still dying from COVID. And in fact, I haven't checked the death rate recently, People just starting to ignore it. I had someone some friends visiting from the US over the weekend, and one guy said, I had 9 of my friends die from COVID. I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. And he's right in Miami, in Florida. It is what it is, folks. I get it. I understand the fatigue. I saw someone just, when are we going to have, when can we start wearing masks? Yeah. 3.4% of reported COVID-19 cases, people have died. And these are underestimates. We know that for sure. Many more people have actually died from COVID. Right? So let's stay the course. You know what you need to do to protect yourself. Ramsey was saying that was a good suggestion. I think that was in relation to the loudspeakers at the port of entry, reminding people to please wear your mask. Emma is saying any way that we could get rid of the mask. It's in your best interest, Emma. I know it. I know it sounds, but believe me, it is in your best interest to stop the spread of a communicable disease that is airborne. Maria says, my question to Denny is, if persons traverse a property to go to the beach, then a building is erected, would they not be considered as trespassers if they attempt to continue to cross the beach, which is not accessible by any other way? So I think that question relates to prescriptive rights being transferable or transferred. So after the 20 years, anybody who has any sense will try to codify a prescriptive right as opposed to just letting it sit there, because this is exactly what was happening with Mike Adams down in West Bay with his crazy neighbors, right? So there was a prescriptive right in that instance that existed for like 40 years. It was pretty prescriptive. And then once these people came in and started questioning the prescriptive right, the right of way, the access point, what the Adams family did was they actually went to the land registry and they registered it. So you can register a prescriptive right. And that has been done. Now, my question in relation, and this is a legal question, to prescriptive rights, does it have to be continual use? So here's an example. Say people might access part of a private property here and there, and then the bush grows up. The private property owners do not, do anything about the bush growth. And so that acts to intervene or intercept or interrupt is the correct word I'm looking for here, that access to the public, and they stop using it. Does that prescriptive right go away? Is it like a continual prescriptive right? You know what I mean? So Dion, good morning. Lots of questions about that. Maybe we can have some attorneys jump in. Again, Maria is asking about when the property is sold. In the case of the Adams family in that situation, that new landowner actually was very much aware of the fact that there was a prescriptive right that existed, because he got, remember I told you guys, he got a discount on the property because the prescriptive right was there and everybody knew that it was there. Yes, sir. Quick commercial break, folks.
At Innovative Building Products, we provide professional builders and homeowners with the highest quality materials from top brands worldwide. Tiling tools, waterproofing systems, thin sets, self-levelers, grout, along with porcelain floor and wall tiles. Our products are 100% guaranteed, promise 100% satisfaction, and beat competitor pricing. Pallets of materials are ready to go. Quick and easy convenience to get you in and out within 5 minutes.
Mga kabayan, nakatutok po kayo sa Cold Hard Truth, hatid ni Sandy Hill, ang nangungunang talk show sa Cayman, ang boses ng masa.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. We do have another caller joining in. Good morning, caller. How are you? Oh, okay. 936-2626 is the telephone number if you wish to call. If you don't wish to call, then that's not the number. All right, folks, let's get back to our mail questions. Again, quite a number of comments coming in as well. Another comment here says, who owns the Federal Reserve? So Damien wants to know. Who owns the Federal Reserve? So here's the official answer. So the Federal Reserve System is not owned by anyone. The Federal Reserve was created in 1913 by the Federal Reserve Act to serve as the nation's central bank. The Board of Governors in Washington, D.C. is an agency of the federal government and reports to and is directly accountable to the Congress. So hopefully that answers your question. It's like a government agency, basically. Yes, awesome. Ramsey says it's not mandatory by government, but can the bus operators should tell their passengers with the Cayman kind attitude that they should wear their mask everywhere in stores also. Fatima says Cayman is too far gone for the government to do anything for Caymanians. Developers have taken over everything. So sad. What would you be doing without development, though? There'd be no job creations. There'd be stagnation. Listen, we've already seen, I think, I hope that we've seen the really precarious situation that this country is on because we rely on two sectors. Tourism got shut down during COVID. We saw what that has done and how the government could barely provide a stipend to people to try to just survive. What else is going to take a hit? Financial services takes a hit every single time you get blacklisted or graylisted. And the news there continues to tighten every single day. I think it's easy to say like these little snippets about, oh, developers have taken over. What does that even mean? And what would you do in a country where there was no development? There was no options for tourists. There was no, there has to be a balance. And nothing can be out of balance because then you get to stagflation. But I think we all, and I agree with Denny 100% on this, we all need to educate ourselves a bit more about economic systems and how these things actually work. And as a small island, we're not even technically a nation, but let's just call us that for the purpose of this comment. As a small island overseas territory, what can we do and how much can we control what actually happens to us? And we all need to have a realistic view of that. Yes, there are decisions that every single person can make that impacts their lives. So when we talk about reining in the spending, a lot of you don't want to have that conversation, but you need to have that conversation. Like, really. All right. Cassandra says a world pandemic had U.S. reduce oil prices are up because no one wants Russia making money off of oil. Again, that kind of comment isn't correct. Russia has been making money off of oil forever, and they have been selling it to all of Europe. Look at the countries, even as Europe tries to pull away from Russian oil because of what they have done to Ukraine. There are several countries who signed on to that agreement that we spoke about last week, that European agreement, that have said we can't pull away from Russian oil. We've got a direct pipeline that comes into our country from Russia. And we don't have a choice. We can't do anything else. And so they have been allowed to, continue to get their oil from Russia. Now, without a doubt, Russia is being put under international pressures, not because nobody wants them to make money off of oil, but because they have invaded a sovereign nation for whatever reason. And the world is trying to send a message that you cannot do that without consequences. You're doing it. 4 months, is it now 4 months of a war that was supposed to last, they thought a couple weeks, but you can't do that and the rest of the world pumping you with billions and billions of dollars to pay for your oil. We're going to find other choices. So, when we make certain comments and we put certain comments out there, I think the need to be as accurate as possible is really, really important. And we will continue to feel the pinch of that situation and other things that's causing inflation to rise. So the feds are doing their part. They're trying to do their part by making it more difficult for you to borrow money. And it seems like right now, if you're smart, it looks like you might want to just hold off on those types of things. Tracy says the cost of living is up everywhere. Russia only supplies the US with 5% of the oil, and the rest comes from Arabia and Canada. But look at what's happening. It's not just the US that is involved in the market. It is the European countries. Let's see. All right. I'm just going to fact check something that you just said, Tracy, because these are the types of things that I want to make sure that we're actually getting right here. So in 2021, U.S. imports of crude oil, they imported 209,000 barrels of crude oils per day from Russia, and that was the highest level in many years. But in terms of where they import crude oil from, it is 3%. And they don't get most of it from those other places, as you've mentioned, at all. 6% from Saudi Arabia, 13% from other, 10% from Mexico, 3% from Colombia, 2% from Iraq. Ecuador is 2%. Guess where? This should be a trivia question. Guess where the US gets most of its crude oil from? So you see how we've just made a comment. 5% is actually 3%. The majority of the crude oil, Tracy's on the mark on this one, actually comes from Canada, not Arabia, not Saudi Arabia at all. 61% is coming from Canada. And then the question becomes, where does Canada get it from? Real trickle-down effect, caller. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandra. You might have moved. I think you were talking about prescriptive rights not too long ago and so on, but I kept going back and forth. I know you're talking about oil now, but let me just say, can I say something about the prescriptive rights?
Absolutely.
See, prescriptive, it is very important, I think, that people understand how prescriptive rights work. And under the prescription law, once you have used any particular right of way for 20 years uninterrupted, unchallenged, then it becomes an indefeasible right, meaning that you can't take it away. And that right will belong either to the community as a whole, like if it is a place which was more like a public right of way, or it may belong to maybe a group of people who live just in a particular corner where they needed to be able to access either a public road or the beach that way. So that, but you see, the problem with prescriptive rights is that although they are recognized in law, it is sometimes very difficult to enforce them. Because people may challenge them and they say, well, but you see, it was not continuously for 20 years, or it did go on for 20 years, but we were always challenging it and so on. But if you go to court and you actually show that it was uninterrupted for 20 years, it is indefeasible, it can't be taken away. And this is the thing, I was at some time representing as an attorney Concerned Citizens Group and some individuals in there when we were fighting for beach access rights, which we are still doing right now. I don't speak for them anymore, but I'm still part of the group which is trying to have that recognized. What government needs to do about prescriptive rights, it just needs to amend the registered land law to give the registrar power to register prescriptive rights. The excuse that different governments have had up to this point has been, well, there's no power to register the prescriptive rights. And then when we pushed them hard, they said, okay, then they passed the Public Lands Commission law. And then they said, well, if you want to claim any prescriptive rights and there is a little bit of a dispute, then you should go to the Public Lands Commission, and then the Public Lands Commission will help you get money to go to court so that you can fight the case. Now, that's ridiculous. Okay? Why don't you just amend the law so that the registrar can have the right to register those prescriptive rights? Now, there will always be the issue as to whether that could be destructive as to development and so forth. But all you can do is, when you amend the law, there's another thing you can do. You can just ensure that the registrar either consults with the Public Lands Commission or consults with any other people in government, but to give the power to the commission. You know, it's like that old expression: "Take it easy, but take it." You know, and that's what government needs to do. But what government has been doing, and I'll be very blunt about this, governments have successively, they have been deliberately lying to the people and saying we care about prescriptive rights, but they have not done the things that need to be done. When I joined this fight about rights of way, it was only about 4 or 5 years ago when I joined it. But the people have been fighting about this for 30 years. 500 affidavits were established, 200 rights of way, and not a single one has been established. And at one point, actually, last year, they started saying, well, but those affidavits are now stale, we can't recognize them, for which there is no foundation in law whatsoever. I think people need to be educated about this. The government needs to be put under pressure so that they can actually deliver on this issue rather than keep window dressing. I thought I should just share that this morning.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, my dear. All right, folks. So, yes, we've only got through the first question for mailbag, for our mailbag Friday, but that goes to show you how the conversations go. So this has been a very, very interesting one that has brought up a number of different points. And thank you so much to that caller, attorney at law Baliki, who is well-versed in prescriptive rights. Somebody else says, get Sammy Jackson on the program because he knows a lot about prescriptive rights as well. We'll send the invitation. All about educating people. So El Rey says Ukraine is one of the world's largest exporters of wheat, but the war is taking a toll on the country's agriculture and food supplies, sparking fears of shortages or higher prices around the world. Last year, Ukraine produced about 33 million tons of wheat, of which it exported about 20 million tons, making it the sixth largest exporter globally. This year, with the situation as it stands, the country only has the potential to produce about 21 million tons of wheat, down about 23% on average. Listen, there's a lot, El Rey, we've talked about it last year, about India stopping export of, what did they do? Sugar. They've done wheat. There was another Asian country, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, that also was stopping exporting. They're freezing exports on certain commodities that are really, really important to things that we need. And that will have a trickle-down effect. Although for those countries, they primarily supply their own region, it will have a trickle-down effect because we all live in this world together. So in terms of Canada, let's wrap this up and let's move on to another question. So from 2014 to 2019, Canada exports, this is again, natural gas, crude oil, right? Natural gas producers. They exported to the US. It increased slightly, but overall exports to the US have dropped 22% over the past 10 years. And listen to this, according to their information here, Canada urgently needs new international markets for their natural gas. So imagine they're looking for new markets. Advances in horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing have enabled the U.S. to increase its own natural gas production by more than 40%. This is different than crude, but still give you an idea of what's happening. The U.S. has become the world's top natural gas producer since 2011. So when we talk about things like, crude oil and natural gas and all these sorts of things, there's a lot that is involved in the movements of these commodities around the world. So despite having the world's third largest oil reserves, Canada imports oil from foreign suppliers. Again, isn't that crazy? Currently, more than half the oil used in Quebec and Atlantic Canada is imported from foreign sources, including the US, Saudi Arabia, Russian Federation, United Kingdom, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Azerbaijan. So in 2019, Canada spent $18.9 billion to import foreign oil. Sounds crazy, because weren't we just saying that they were sending crude oil out? And believe it or not, the world demand for crude oil is expected to grow in the coming decades, according to the International Energy Agency. Their 2021 World Energy Outlook report, global demand for oil will increase 21% by 2040. I'm sure the environmentalists are cringing, like, how is that possible? From 87.9 billion to 103.6 billion. The combined demand from China and India is at 5.9. So it isn't really about us again. Lots of players in the world, China and India, requiring quite a bit as their economies continue to grow and as their countries continue to grow. Okay, let's move on. El Rey says it's not just about what's happening in America. Absolutely. Canada, Europe, Asia, everything. So Shalice says, I have it on Hood, is that Good Authority, that effective this Sunday, the USA will lift its COVID restrictions for international travelers. Well, it's already in the news, folks. Let's go there. Since you mention it, why not? We received this probably at 8:30 this morning. The US will end COVID-19 testing requirements for air travelers entering the country. So this report, again, you're probably hearing it first here locally if you're not listening to international news, but this is what we like to do, bring it to you as it's happening. The Biden administration is expected to announce today that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will lift its requirement for travelers to test negative for COVID-19 before entering the U.S. So yes, will that have an impact on us? Maybe. Our regulations don't expire until the end of the month. So we'll have to see what sort of implications that has. This is one of those things, folks, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? There will be, consequences either way. So some people say, the travelers into Cayman don't want to have to COVID test. They don't want to do anything, to be quite frank. And, listen, I traveled recently. It really isn't that big of a deal unless you think you're positive. And then, that might get you stuck in a country because you won't be able to travel. So if the US lifts it as not mandatory, that doesn't mean the individual airlines have to follow suit. So individual airlines might still say, we want you to COVID test before you come in this really close environment where you're sitting next to people, coughing on them and whatever. So I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. We will certainly update you in terms of what's going on. But yes, that is breaking news this morning, that the Biden administration is going to look at removing the requirement to test. It doesn't say anything about being vaccinated, though. So the travel industry obviously has been lobbying against this for months. And at the time in January, the CDC said that it would reassess its decision in 90 days. And now this, I guess, is coming up on that process. So it says that the officials are saying that the Biden administration plans to work with airlines to ensure a smooth transition with the change, but it will likely be a welcome move for most in the industry. Okay. Now, it looks like it will be lifted probably for people traveling after Sunday. And then again, there's no mention of what that means in terms of, presumably you still have to be vaccinated. I don't think they're going to touch that. All right, so that's what it is now. So we'll keep you guys abreast. That'll be going up on the CMR website here shortly. Renee is actually working on that. So let's see if we can get to another question. Believe it or not, of my 4 pages, that's only 2 basically that we got to. Here is one that's kind of related to this morning's discussion. Does the cost of living have an impact on the birth rate in Cayman? Has anyone done any studies on that? Just a random thought. I don't think anyone has done any specific studies, and the cost of living, I don't know. Has the birth rate declined over the past 20 years? Because the cost of living has always gone up. It's never gone down. I don't know if it has a direct impact on it, but I think other things probably have had an impact on the birth rate, including even women's access to choice. Women now have the right, and they feel like they have the right as compared to maybe even 50 years ago or even 30 years ago. Women feel like they have a right to say what they want to do with their bodies. So there are women who are choosing not to have children. They're like, no, I don't want to have kids. Or I only have 1 or 2 and that's it. You're not going to pile me up with 50 children. So I think that probably has more of an impact, women's access to birth control. Religious factors. I don't know if the Catholic Church has finally signed off on birth control or not, but probably more Catholic people are, more inclined to make their own decisions as opposed to having the church dictate what a woman's reproductive rights should be. So I don't think we have a necessarily high birth rate. I think what we have happening here is normally the people who can least afford to have children are the ones who are having the most. Bit of a conundrum there. Remy, Chef Remy in the house. Good morning to you, my dear. How are you? Love the new logo, Chef Remy. You've been really stepping things up in terms of the business. I'm noticing. I'm paying attention. Absolutely love what he's been doing. Of course, Chef Remy has a private catering business. We actually had a dinner catered by him, and oh my God, amazing. Gianna was impressed with the flowers that she could eat. She's like, I can eat these? Yes. So Chef Remy has, oh my God, his food is so good. Absolutely divine. Let's move on to another question. This one says, this is more of a submission comment, but it says, hi, I appreciated your article about Esther Henderson. Met her 40 years ago in Stockholm, where she worked as a lifeguard in a swimming pool. I was a foreman there. She had some concerns with banks and authorities, and she would be deported only after a bad investigation. I'm not sure what that was, but she said, we solved it with the help of a woman on immigration police in Marsta. I guess that's in Stockholm. I don't know. She was, as you describe her, always happy and was a joy spender. The last contact we had was 16, I guess that's 2016. We were to be heard after that she was in the hospital in Miami, but she passed away a few days later. It hurt me a lot. Best regards. Someone writing Kajel, I think is how it's pronounced, from Kumla. Thank you for that. When someone passes away, it's always a very difficult situation. And we try on this platform to be as sensitive as we can. Sometimes family members will send us what they wish to be published, which is, I think, always the best way. And then other times we kind of just piece it together, just kind of knowing a little bit about the person. In the case of Miss Esther, we pieced it together. She was someone that I had the opportunity to meet myself in a professional capacity. And she had the type of personality that you kind of never really forget. Like, I remember vividly the day that she walked in to my office in Pasadena Place. She was so full of just life and energy and super vibrant. And she said, I hear that you're the best, and that's why I'm here. So a little bit of flattery goes a long way. And, I remember having a conversation with her. It was a Saturday morning. Actually, it was Saturday afternoon when she walked in. And I remember Marla and I were there. And she was just so interested in us as individuals, not just business owners as well. And yeah, so we were, I like in all things to try to help people be realistic, manage expectations, as I always say, so that people don't get disappointed. So I said, well, you might have heard that I'm the best, but let me tell you what I actually do and, what you can expect and so on. And she was happy. And she was actually a customer of mine for years. Really just a pleasant individual. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Let's try to get in as many as we can, because then the others will have to save until next week, Friday. So today is Mail with Sandy Day, folks. Get into your questions and comments that you send in. So this one says, hello, can you address the persons, them that owe people, them, their partner money from lockdown till now and not willing to pay back none at all, not even in pieces, and use people money to pay their mortgage? Robinson, I think they meant to say robbing poor people their money. 3 draw went out from 2 weeks. Okay. Pay bill, and they don't want to refund back and the money, and they're not answering their phone, and change their number. I will give you name and workplace next, but please address the matter for me on Facebook. Thank you, CMR. So here's the thing. I'm going to address this, as I do with any questions on this program, as honestly as I possibly can. Partners are a bad idea. Okay? Despite what you've been told about throwing a partner, and I know that this is a Caribbean thing, it's a Caymanian thing, everybody, oh, throw a partner, it's a good way to save money, blah, blah, blah. It is inherently a bad idea because you're getting into bed, figuratively, with people that even if you think you know them, you should not be trusting them when it comes to money. Nothing will end a friendship quicker, folks, than money mix up. Don't loan people money if you can't afford to give people money. Don't enter a partner if you can't afford to lose the money. Because invariably at some point, and you might have thrown 5 partners before and they all went well, they're only as good as the weakest link. And I'm surprised that during a pandemic, when people are struggling, that anybody in their right mind would enter into a partner. People can't even pay their mortgages. People can't pay the obligations that they're supposed to pay. And as this person said, they're taking partner money to pay their mortgages so that they don't get evicted and they can keep their homes. Yeah, they're going to do that. And so I would not recommend entering into a partner ever, really, but especially in tough times. Because people will have, oh, they got it figured out, child. Yes, I'm going to have that money to pay you back or whatever. And then that month, it all dries up. Just common sense 101. Money sense 101. Don't play around with your money, folks. It's hard to come by. Now, for those of you who are listening to the program, I have no idea what a partner is. You're probably like saying, I don't know what you're talking about. What is a partner? A partner is where you get a group of people together. It's like they're trying to do their own banking. They will do their own loan system, right? So say you get 5 people together and you all decide that you're going to contribute per month $2,000 a month. Yes? 5 times 2 is $10,000. So the drawdown is 10. You decide who's going to go first in terms of getting the money. So everybody puts the money into the pot. First month, normally the banker gets the pull at the first month. And it's kind of, depending on who the partner is with, you have to decide who's going to get their drawdown first. Now that person, that is considered the most favorable position to be in to get your money first, because when shit starts to happen, as it will, and people start to not pay, you're going to have a situation where that person already has their money. So they're like, hey, I'm good. I don't need any more, if it falls apart after the first payout, just like these pyramid schemes that you guys are running during COVID. And I kept telling y'all, don't be falling for the, oh yeah, but I know this person who worked customs and they got all this kind of money. That's because they're at the top of the pyramid scheme. So they came in early and they started recruiting people and they got paid. But as the scheme continues, it loses steam and it's harder to recruit more people into those pyramid schemes. You're not going to get the big payday and payout that you're looking for. Stop having people tell you foolishness. So everybody in the partner puts in their money. One person gets a drawdown and it cycles through depending on how many people. Now, some partners are big in terms of the number of people involved. So you get all 10 people. And sometimes they're committing to $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month. Now, let me be very clear. If you have the ability to hand over somebody $2,500 per month, right? One go, or even $500 per month, one go, you can take that money and save it in another way. It's like people have partners is kind of a mental thing, right? Because you feel like, okay, this is now a bill that I owe because I owe it to these people. These people are going to put me under pressure. So if I don't pay it, I'm going to get in trouble or whatever. But because it's considered gambling by law, the police can't help you. So when you call the police, they're going to say, oops, not our business. It's gambling. You try to take these people to court. Technically, even a civil remedy is not going to be available to you because it is an illegal activity. So what are you going to do? They've changed their phone number. They're not answering your calls and they owe you partner money. Now, y'all like to be sending people pictures and whatever from people to CMR because, the second we post it up, they're going to be dying of such embarrassment that they're going to want to pay up. Well, maybe, maybe not. It's a risk. It's like these cash to payday businesses. They are taking on an immense risk. One of them sent me a picture recently of a guy who is he used to work at the prison. You know, they've not renewed his contract. So now they're like, you know, we need your help getting our money back. No, what you need to do is you need to, number one, be very, very careful who you're loaning money to. This is a high risk kind of business. Anybody who does a cash to payday business, you should know that it is high risk, because normally the people who come to you are the worst when it comes to their finances. They're not coming to you because you're offering them a lucrative deal. You have higher interest rates than a bank. These are short-term loans, folks. So these people are coming to you. Here's a picture of the guy that they're looking for right now. These people are coming to you because they don't have no other choice. He couldn't go to the bank. Maybe he already had too much debt. He was above his debt ratio. Maybe he was in trouble financially in other areas of his life. That is why he's coming to your business to borrow money. Now, I don't know how much money he borrowed, but now he is ghosting them, right? He no longer has a job with government. So there goes what you thought was your guarantee. Oh, yes, he borrowed $2,000. Here to mix up now. He borrowed $2,000 in principal sum, paying $400 in interest. Daily fees charged every day past the due date is $13.33. Now, I am no financier, but like I said, y'all need to use some freaking common sense. You're going to loan somebody $2,000 and $400. What's the rate? Can somebody have a look at the rate of what they're actually paying for interest? It doesn't make any financial sense. But people do things out of desperation that don't necessarily make any financial sense. Now, the thing is, if you enter into a contract agreement and you agree to this, just like you go to the pawn shop and you're pawning stuff, and you know, the difference is the pawn shop has collateral. Whatever you're pawning, if you don't return the money, they're going to take it and sell it. That's why they value your items at the pawn shop so low, because if you don't return, they got to be able to get their money back, that principal that they loaned you plus some. So this guy borrowed the money, it looks like in January, Alfred S. Williams, and he hasn't paid it back. And you know, he's not, same thing, not answering the phone, can't be found, change the phone number, or he has that number blocked. And then somebody else calls him, he answers the phone. So in this instance, he actually did $2,000 loans each from this cash to payday style business. Called him repeatedly, sent messages via WhatsApp, sent emails, and he's just not replying. They say that he's attempting to abscond without settling his debts. And he has a signed loan agreement contract. This is why I got to be honest with you. You know, these cash to payday businesses, they're extremely high risk for the people who are running the businesses, because you have people like this. And I know of other people who have come to me and said, oh, you know, I have a small cash to payday business and all these people are not on me. I said, you know what? You need to have a lawyer on standby who can then take these people to court to recover your money. But you'll get a judgment, but recovering the money and getting a judgment are two very different things. So you may get a judgment in your favor, but if the person doesn't have any money, you're still not going to get any money. El Ray says take a loan in the forehead. El Ray, you need to behave yourself. It's Friday after all. So partner mix up. My advice to you would be don't enter one, because the options available are very, very slim in terms of any remedies. You basically have none. And like I said, I've seen it ruin family relationships, friendships, the works over the years. If you have money and you're trying to find a way to save it, go and sit down with a financial advisor, speak to your bank about how you can bank that money in a way where you're not tempted to touch it. And then, you know, that will benefit you. You're better off, and I know people tend to do it for like little projects and whatever that they have coming up. Some people have done it like, oh, I need to pay my children's school fees, and it helps me to have like a lump sum to do that. You can still have that same discipline without being involved in a partner. Child, I'm trying to discipline myself right now. Anything a little extra, throw it on the mortgage, because I'm like, let's hurry up and pay off the mortgage so that I'm not too, this whole inflation thing isn't going to give me a heart attack. All right, let's move on to another question. We've got about 8 minutes left in today's program. 936-2626. Any opinions or comments that you may have on what we're discussing? Okay, this one's a good one because we actually have a good response to this. So this one says, Dear Miss Sandra, can you please investigate the fuel issue in Cayman? So this we actually posted on Saturday on our CMR page. They said, me and a lot of people I know have had issues with their cars lately. It's like they have diluted the fuel. I have a brand new car that after I filled up at Barcam, it struggles to start. Took it to a dealership mechanic and they said the fuel doesn't look right. They purged my tank and I filled it up again with fuel and my car now runs smooth. I will speed this message to everyone until this mess gets sorted. I know I'm not the only one experiencing this, that it's an issue at many gas stations. So first of all, we posted that. The owners at Barcam reached out to us and they said, listen, people who send in these anonymous messages are a little bit suspect. Because if you have a brand new vehicle that is destroyed and your mechanic tells you, which the mechanic didn't really say that. The mechanic said, according to what the person has shared, that something doesn't look right. That is a little bit too iffy for me. Like, I think if a mechanic is going to make such a comment like that, he should either be able to say yay or nay. Something don't look right. There's a lot of things that don't look right, but that doesn't mean that that's the cause. But the owner said, listen, someone is going to allegedly have their brand new vehicle impacted by what they claim is bad diluted gas, and they don't even contact the management of the gas station. Everybody knows who owns Barcam. And I said, that is a valid point. I mean, that would have been the first thing I would have done is, listen, according to my mechanic, your gas just messed up my brand new car. What the heck? What gives? As a result of that post, OffReg reached out to us over the weekend. They asked anyone who has a complaint to reach out to them directly. And they actually went that very same day on Saturday. I guess this is the power of CMR, y'all. They went to Barcam and they tested the oil. And they have been testing oil at gas stations, the fuel. And they actually issued a statement, which we put up on our website. So hopefully all of you have seen this, to say that the gas at Barcam is perfectly fine.
Just say,
and
know that your time is a precious resource.
Sorry.
And want to help
this
you spend
thing
it
autoplays
wisely.
on the website. And they have no concerns about the fuel. So they're coming on the show. So stay tuned for further information, but they are coming on the show hopefully on Monday. So they were originally slated for today, and then there was a conflicting issue with the schedule. So Mr. Duke Monroe, who's the executive director for the fuel segment of OffReg, will be on the program on Monday. So he'll answer all of your questions in relation to that. But they've gone out and they've tested. They did a same-day investigation following our posts on social media. And they have said that, there are no issues. Acceptable fuel quality standards are met in both the gasoline and diesel fuels. And the other thing that we understand from these business owners is they're like, Sandy, our gas tanks are like double insulated, triple insulated, whatever. They're above, sea level. There's certain things that they have to do, and we'll get all the details of this when the regulators come in. But there's certain regulatory things that they have to do in order to protect the oil, even that's at the gas station, the fuel there. So it's not something like, oh, it gets dropped off and then water is able to seep into it. Thank you, Denny. He says fuel, not oil. Don't interchange the two. Let me say this, though. I was having an issue with my car recently where it's like doing this little sputtering thing, right? And it started a number of months ago. And so I called the dealer. My car is over 5 years old, so obviously not even in warranty anymore. And I called the dealer and I said, hey, I'm having this issue that's a little bit weird. Like it happens when I'm accelerating, like when it's changing gears. I feel it like it's like, but it's really like it's a, I don't even, listen, I'm a woman trying to explain a mechanical issue. Y'all know I want to do a car show in this program, but all I can tell you is like a jerking. It's doing like a jerking thing, right? And I'm thinking, what the heck? So the first couple times I noticed it, I'm like, Okay, this is a little bit weird. One day I had gone to North Side coming out of the Frank Sound Junction. It's more like when I try to accelerate, like it's just shifting gears really, really bizarrely, right? And so I'm like, I wonder what this could be. So, take it into the mechanic. They put it up, these fancy computers. They claim that they don't see anything wrong with it. The computer doesn't tell them there's anything wrong. And I'm like, well, the computer might not be telling you anything, but I'm telling you what this car is doing isn't normal. There's definitely something wrong. So at one point, someone says to me, well, maybe it's the fuel. And I was like, maybe. I mean, again, I'm no mechanic. I don't know. So I speak to the dealer about it, and they said, maybe. Everybody's like, maybe, right? So, what you try to do, and I just fill it up. And there's some days that it does it more than others, and there are other days it doesn't do it at all. Like I can go days, a week, and it doesn't do it. And then all of a sudden, one day it'll do it like 4 times in a day. So it was very, very sporadic. I'm thinking if it was fuel, I would expect it to be more consistent. It wouldn't be like it's randomly doing it here or there. And like that kind of doesn't make sense for a fuel related issue, right? So I thought about that. And I said, okay, well, what do I do? Well, they have these things that you can buy, these injection, I don't know what they call them, cleaners or whatever. And you add that additive to your fuel, and that helps, to clean out whatever. I said, all right. So I did that, ran out the tank of gas, got another tank of gas somewhere else. Now, I'm actually one of those people who doesn't necessarily go to the exact same gas station every single time. Like I'm one of those people. Like I don't really care. I don't even care if it's Esso or what's the other one called? We have Esso and Barcam, Esso, and what's the other one called? Oh, whatever they're called. See, I don't even know. There's Refuel, there's Esso, and there's Rubus now, right? So I'm like, listen, when I see the gas light come on, because that's normally what I notice that I need gas, hurricane season, I try to pay a little bit more attention. I'm like, okay, I gotta fill up today. Where's the closest gas station? I go and I fill up, right? And I'm out of there. So I'm like, I can't really pinpoint it to any particular gas station or any particular, like, I don't know. So then the car dealer says, okay, we would prefer to use this particular gas. I'm not going to say which one they recommend, but they recommend a particular supplier because they claim that their fuel, my apologies, Denny, is actually better. I say, right, okay. The problem persists. And I persist and say, listen, I don't think this is a fuel thing, right? I'm speaking to other people, and I really feel like this is something with the transmission. And of course they're saying, but the transmission, the computer tells us there's nothing wrong with your transmission. Well, lo and behold, the last time I went in for servicing, I said, y'all need to explore this a little bit more. It's like that thing that has been making a sound in my rear end for how long, and you tell me that, you can't hear it, and when you do hear it, you're not sure what it is. You need to find a reason. You need to tell me really what's going on with this vehicle. So finally, they message a dealer in Germany, the people, the experts in Germany, and they say, this is what's happening. Machine isn't picking up. They come back and say, oh yeah, we think it's not the entire transmission. It's parts of the transmission that now need to be replaced that's causing this problem. I'm like, what? And do tell, what's going to happen to me one day with this vehicle? Oh yeah, it'll just stop and you won't be able to use your car anymore. Huh? Are you kidding me?
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.
I feel like this is the after show now. So that's me keeping a very close eye, folks, on the caller. We're still on air. Are you wishing to make on-air comments?
Is it Sandy?
Yes, we're on air.
Oh, I thought you were finished.
On the radio, but we're still online.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, folks, because of the time, we do have to try to end it because the radio is like automated, right? So there's like a show, right, a news or whatever right after us that auto plays. So we try to play our outro song in order for that to happen very, very quickly. And I'm always missing it by a couple seconds, I'll be honest. So I am going to wrap it up on time here today, though, because I do have a number of appointments with some clients that I must get to. So we only got through a handful of questions. There's more to come. So I'll save these up for next week. Sending your questions, folks. WhatsApp. You've got the number 936-2626. Those of you who have my personal WhatsApp number, you can send it there as well. Email tips@caymanmallroad.com. Those are probably the best ways to send through your messages. So we'll continue your mailbag with Sandy next week, Friday. I'll put this in the little tray over here so that we can pick up where we left off. But the short of it is my issue with my vehicle had nothing to do whatsoever with the fuel. Nothing. Turns out it is something with the vehicle itself and components of the transmission that now have to be replaced. And look, I had to get a loan to try and order the parts. Paul says, good morning, Sandra and CMR. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Paul. Same thing with the pizza with the hair. So listen, that was really disgusting. First of all, I must say I felt like I wanted to throw up when I saw those photos. The person who sent it in, I often get voice notes and voice messages. I didn't play their voice message, but there were some of you who were like, why not contact the business? And this is just the day and age that we live in as well, where people want to get the word out there. They want the consumers to be careful. Sometimes, yes, the business can do their part and they can fix certain things, but other times it's about notifying the public to be careful when you go to certain places and you're eating out. Look in your food and listen, who has not found hair in their food? We all have at some point. Sometimes it's baked into the fritter. Like that has happened to me before. And I'm like, WTF, right? Disgusting. And it turns you off from your entire meal. Sometimes you find insects in your food. That has happened. Now, I'm a little bit different with an insect because this was something where this was at one of my favorite restaurants, actually, where, they have a home garden and you'll get bugs and stuff in the garden. You saute the food, you're not fully cooking it. So that insect, you can still see the insect in there. But you'd be surprised how much insects and other stuff you're eating in food because you can't ever wash it 100%, even when you think you are. For the most part, it ain't going to kill you. There are people who eat insects as part of their diet, and they say it's a good little extra fiber. I'm not up for that, to be honest. I'm just not up for that. But, hair is a very different thing because when you're working in a restaurant, you're a chef, you're the sous chef, whatever, you're helping to prepare meals, you should have on a hair net. I hate going into places where you can see people preparing food and around food and they're not wearing gloves, they're not wearing a hair net. Now, to be fair, there's certain foods, Chef Remy's probably listening still, there's certain preparation of foods, whatever, that it's difficult to do it with a glove. Like sometimes you do have to get your hands in there. And so your hands better be freaking clean. Even in my own kitchen, when I'm preparing foods like dough and stuff like that, child, I'd be like, just hand me the gloves. And it's not easy working with gloves to prepare certain food. But especially if it's other people that are going to be eating it, like if I'm doing my Christmas dinner or whatever, child, you'll see me put on gloves. Okay. All that hair that was in that pizza, or it wasn't pizza, it was a cheese bread or whatever, is pretty disgusting. I don't have any reasons to not believe the person who sent it in. This is someone that I know. On, WhatsApp, she sends me stuff all the time. So I don't have any reason not to believe it. And I don't think it's a setup. She wasn't going on like that. But I do think it's pretty nasty. And so to all food handlers, and this is why she sent it through to us, is she wants food handlers to be careful as well as consumers to be vigilant and on the lookout. I look at my food when I eat it, and this is exactly why, because you never know the stuff that's going to be showing up in your food. So just keep in mind that, people are having to eat this food that you're preparing. And so you should exercise. I don't know if the person was shedding hair for some particular reason, because it did seem like quite a bit. I don't know where the hair came. Listen, I don't have the explanation. I just know that if we take it at face value, that is pretty disgusting and pretty nasty. And you can call the Department of Environmental Health and advise them of things like this. And that's what I recommend that you all do, because they do, I guess, routine inspections of these food places, of restaurants. But there's some restaurants and some places that they need to step up and do a bit more. It reminds me of when I went into a restaurant many, many years ago. They had the best tamarind drink. I used to love getting their tamarind drink. And so it was in walking distance from my office. And a lot of times I'd walk over and, didn't have much for lunch, but I'd be like, oh, let me get a glass of tamarind drink. Nice, cool, refreshing. And I'm sitting there watching the lady take it out of the fridge, shake it up, because, tamarind drink separates, it settles, and pour it into a cup. And then she takes a sip out of my cup, puts a lid on it, and hands it to me. Now, you guys know it's me, right? You're expecting that, oh my God, Sandy must have been like, what the fuck did you just do? Blah, blah, blah. I was in such a state of shock and disbelief. You know what I did? I handed her my money like I was a friggin' zombie. I was just so shocked. I handed her the money for the tamarind drink, walked out the door and took it with me and threw it away. Because I was just like, what did I just witness? What did I just see? I couldn't believe it. But I still paid for it. To this day, you always tell yourself, oh, I'm going to do this when this happens. Never say what you're going to do, because trust me, in a situation, you never know. I was like, I should have pelt that drink at her. All these things are going through my mind afterwards. But in the moment, I was like, that woman just drank out of my... Let me demonstrate in case you missed what I'm saying, right? She shook up the big jar of tamarind drink, poured it out, took a sip like so, put the lid on right in front of me and handed it to me. There was other people in the restaurant. I'm looking at them like, did anybody else see this? Am I seeing right? Like, I questioned my own sanity in that moment at what I had seen. I was like, what the hell did she just do? I threw it out. And of course, what did I do? This is before CMR. I went to social media and I complained about what I had just witnessed. And you know what is so funny is I didn't name the restaurant, but there are people who messaged me who were able to guess, because they're like, oh, I see this woman eating food out of scrapes and out of people's plates and whatever. And I was like, what? She got a problem. Yes, honey child. I was just so flabbergasted. I could not believe what had just happened to me. And as much as I love that tamarind drink, I'm like, hell no, not going there again. And I actually used to love their food. But child, I can't make myself go there again as long as that woman there. No, sir. Melita laughing. No, Melita, I'm telling you the God's honest truth. I was just like, what just happened? And then every time I see her out and about shopping for food for the restaurant, I feel bad. I'm the one who's feeling embarrassed. I'm like, why am I feeling embarrassed? She's the one who should feel. So child, I got on the phone and I went, beep, 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 dialed in. DEH, I think you need to go and inspect this restaurant. Here's what I just experienced. And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, I want to file an official complaint. After my brain settled in terms of what had happened, I did file an official complaint with DEH. And so sometimes that happens in the moment. People will take a picture and send it to CMR like, WTF, why is there freaking a wig in my food, or a cockroach or this or that or whatever. Oh, Lord Jehovah. Anyway, folks, that's why they say eat home, child. I wish you guys a pleasant weekend. That's it for me. I'm out. I'm going to run and catch up, like I said, with some clients today. If you guys know this gentleman, tell him that he is wanted. I don't know where he's working now that he's no longer with the prison service, but have him call Sub Finance. They are looking for him to repay his $2,000 loan, plus the interest, plus the daily fees. I'm sure they'll probably accept the payment plan. But, don't go around borrowing money from people if you can't pay it back or if you have no intentions of paying it back. Charles says, I do this for my kids to make sure that they're getting what the food they're getting tastes good. Maybe she was doing the same for you. Listen, it's one thing to do it for people that you know. So you doing it for your kids is fine. If I get a drink and my husband has a sip out of it first, that's fine. We can agree to do that. but someone that I do not know. I don't want your saliva in my drink. Okay. I don't know what kind of germified thing you got going on. So, Charles, yeah, I was not impressed. I was like, why would she do that? You work in the restaurant. You own the friggin' restaurant. The mother owns the restaurant. If you want a tamarind drink, surely you can say, Mommy, she's a big woman. Can I just have a sip of tamarind? I was like, is somebody starving her? Like, what? There's so many ideas that went through my head about how and why that happened. To this day, I'm still dumbfounded, to be quite frank and honest. And boy, did I love that tamarind drink. Feel like I could go for some right now. Jeez, peace. Anyway, folks, I wish you guys a beautiful weekend. Please be safe. It goes without saying. Do not drink and drive. We keep saying it, but y'all keep doing it. Don't be that person. All right? Be safe on the roadways. Have a beautiful weekend. Go out tomorrow. Don't forget. Go out and support the Saturday in the park, Dart Park, from 4:30 p.m. until 7 p.m. They're going to have a whole bunch of festivities as part of the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture, and Heritage. Have a fabulous weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Monday morning.